Hi everyone, this is Jenghi, Belmont main and tech enthusiast. I'll be sharing with you some matchup data and my own personal MU chart and perspective. We'll also go through Belmont's strengths and weaknesses and the counterplay to them. While the MU chart is an opinion, feel free to use the matchup data as a guide. The data for each character will include which moves hit blenching, F smash, D smash, and D tilt sometimes hit, Bear, Fair, and Dash attack always hit blenching. Also, it will include whether or not U smash hits ledge roll or normal getup. Ledge roll and vulnerability is included. Characters that have more ledge roll and vulnerability frames are harder to trap with certain holy water and cross traps. The normal getup vulnerability frame is almost always on frame 34, but it's a little bit earlier for some characters. Some more information is here, but the most important one you need is the air dodge frame for frame traps and extensions. Aerial footstool there is good for some combo extensions and for some spike opportunities. Depending on their facing direction and their drift after footstool, it may either miss, get the spike hit, or give you a regular dare. The most important part of the character-specific data is the holy water at ledge follow-ups. The first category on top is for falling short hop holy water. This traps the most characters, however, it also lets them normal get up or jump sooner. Depending on the character, they may get hit by dare, F smash, D smash, or bear. Short hop near ledge holy water traps a bunch of characters and stays out as a wall longer than falling fire does. If a character has a lot of follow-ups off of short hop ledge holy water, I value that really highly in the matchup. Some characters get trapped in grounded holy water too, and that can make a lot of slow cross holy water setups work. If a character just gets tagged by the holy water, it could be better to space the holy water so that it doesn't catch ledge hang and then pressure ledge hang manually. So to summarize those categories, we have short hop falling holy water, short hop near ledge holy water, and grounded holy water. The first column is for if it explodes before the invuln ends. The second column is for if it explodes after the invuln ends. Let's talk about Belmont's strengths. One of Belmont's main strengths is his range. His mid-range game is very strong. It often takes multiple steps for an opponent to get in on Belmont, which lets Belmont frustrate them and gain lots of information while also conditioning the opponent. His retreating options can sometimes get predictable, so mixing up staggered pressure can help a lot. Some common counterplay is to weave in and out of his burst range while finding a way to approach. Run-up shield and safe aerials are common options. Camping the Belmont can work, but is also pretty risky. Belmont has great trapping overall. Cross is a great tool. It's good in tech chasing, it's good in midair, it's good as reverse cross. Holy water is good for landing reads and advantage, and cross and holy water together cut off landings to make it more difficult. Axe is good against opponents off stage or in high juggle situations. Whip itself is great at frame trapping. U-air, fair, bear, they're all pretty good. Detailed and dash attack can cover a lot of landings and combo into cross. If you want to avoid a lot of Belmont's trapping, you want to avoid being between him and the cross and being underneath the cross. Be careful mashing landings or air dodging excessively, because that's often when you get caught by holy water. If a Belmont is taking time to set up traps, you can use that time to take stage control or set up a punish. Alright, everyone's favorite topic, Belmont ledge trapping. Even in a game with so many great ledge trappers, Belmont is one of the most frustrating. If his trapping is as good as it is frustrating, it's kind of an illusion you have to keep up. Good corner pressure and not getting reversaled or winning scrambles after a ledge option is super important. They won't remember that they almost made it off ledge, they'll remember that they spent most of their stock there. That said, it's important to tighten up execution on ledge traps with spacing, with reactionary play, with follow-ups. Belmont has a lot of tools to condition when people get off ledge, like axe, holy water, and aerials, even D-smash. Projectiles offer a lot of preemptive coverage and some reactive coverage. His normals and aerials can provide more reactive coverage. Don't forget he has an F-throw, kill throw, and a D-throw DI mix-up. Ironically, normal getup can actually be hard to cover because most of his moves aren't active more than 2 frames. You can try to catch normal getup with an F-tilt or a D-smash, which are both active for 2 frames. D-tilt 1 is fairly active and combos into D-tilt 2. It actually kills earlier than a lot of his other options. For counterplay to his ledge traps, for a lot of them, you can time a normal getup or a jump through the end of them. However, that can also be a trap. You want to find gaps or missed timings in the ledge traps. A lot of times the gaps are at the beginning because the Belmont hasn't set up in time, or later on when the pressure is reduced. Some of Belmont's better traps actually have weaknesses to roll, but roll loses to basic Belmont F-tilt, so I feel bad recommending roll. Just remember to choose the and you'll get past it. Now on to Belmont weaknesses. I think from this you'll find out that I'm not the most optimistic of Belmont mains. However, I think practically a lot of his weaknesses can be covered up by solid play. His most famous weaknesses is recovery. While his tether recovery gives him some inherent mix-ups, it also ends up being a pretty linear recovery. Many Belmonts will air dodge in order to give themselves more mix-ups on the recovery and better range. However, if they do that, it's very highly punishable. Without a double jump, it makes his recovery even more linear and shorter range. This makes it more risky to use his double jump than average. Some moves send at bad angles that make the recovery even more linear. Some tips to make his recovery better: you can drift in a while before up-angle tethering to maximize his recovery range. Use of a lot of his mix-ups like high dare recoveries, stalling with projectiles like crossing holy water, jump cross, U-R fast fall, jump air dodge to ledge, and threatening with hitnut boxes, and jump tether, other high recoveries. These are all important. If you do directional air dodge in from the blast zone, it can be better sometimes to air dodge up and in. That way it can make it harder for them to cover everything in one edgeguard attempt. Drifting backwards after a directional air dodge in can make it harder for their edgeguard to connect. Try DIing up and in to get more mix-ups than just DI in. Another big weakness of Belmont is his general disadvantage, so like when he's getting juggled or trying to land or is just in the air. He actually has the worst air acceleration in the game, making him a prime target in the air. There is a very unsafe landing mix-up. It's actually vulnerable from the front, and it can be outspaced and punished directly, as well as having a high landing lag. His safest hitboxes to land with are fair and bear, which can be down to -5, but in practice they're usually going to be -7, -10. Due to the poor acceleration and questionable landing options, he's a prime target for U-air and U-smash and in general like vertical kill options. For some counterplay to this, you definitely need to conserve your jump a lot, but sometimes you can jump fast fall air dodge to avoid some vertical options. It can be tempting to air dodge a lot, but it's important to mix in a lot of waiting and occasional aggressive options in order to make things a little bit less predictable. Even though his air acceleration is low, it's important to use what acceleration it does have to give yourself the best spacing and mix possible. Sometimes you just gotta retreat to ledge to avoid some juggle situations, but obviously that's risky because it's offstage and ledge. You want to avoid using dare in a lot of landing situations, especially if they're waiting and spacing. You use it more as a whiff punish. Alright, next weakness, Belmont at ledge and in the corner. His ledge roll isn't great, and his drop-off ledge options are typically stock gambles. His drift after ledge jump is low, making his jumps pretty easy to exploit. If he does ledge jump, his eventual landing can be pretty exploitable. Not having great ledge options and having a bad recovery kind of compounds on each other. If he does get up into the corner, his out-of-corner options can be a bit lackluster because they can be counterplayed by spacing and shielding. Some counterplay for the ledge situation is throwing a reverse cross while recovering. This makes it significantly harder for the opponent to ledge trap you. It's important to play smart out of the corner, being patient, knowing how to fight out of the corner, walk shield, all these things are very important. Tech and near tech situations are also a pretty big weakness for Belmont. His tech roll is pretty poor and can often be covered by the same option at the same time as tech in place. Jumping out of near tech scenarios can be pretty bad because he has a hard time landing and he has a hard time recovering. His projectiles don't give him much mix in these situations because they're all pretty slow. Up B is technically a combo breaker, but its high landing lag makes it really risky. Make sure to use DI directions to get the situations you want when you can and to use a lot of 8 landing. The last weakness we'll talk about is his up close or in shield game. Failed up specials are extremely punishable. They have 26 frames landing lag, which makes them more punishable than similar up specials in the game. His standing grab is frame 10 and his dash grab is frame 13. The standing grab being so slow makes a lot of his in-shield mix-ups a little bit harder. Being frame 10 makes the shield drop turnaround grab reactable. Belmont's attempts to distance himself from close range can be pretty predictable. Summary of his weaknesses is that his disadvantage isn't great, and a lot of the parts of it compound on each other. Double jump being so risky to use makes its use as a mix-up much more committal than some characters, so I feel like Belmont shouldn't be using it as much as others. Alright, we got to the fun part, the matchup chart. The chart might look a little bit more losing than you'd expect, but that's mostly from my respect for the other characters as opposed to, like, Doubt and Belmont himself. There's a lot of busted characters in this game. Great combos, great ledge trapping, great edge guarding, great advantage in general, great mobility, and so on. At the local level, I don't think most of these are that losing, and in fact Belmont carries a lot. That starts to change a lot as other characters optimize their game and their counterplay against Belmont. There's a lot of reasons for optimism in this character, especially after the meta developments and buffs in 2020. Among his buffs, D-Smash being stronger was a great quality of life change. Up Smash being 2 frames faster and stronger gave him a lot of teeth in a lot of his traps that otherwise only sometimes killed and sometimes connected. Belmont's learning to reverse cross while recovering makes this character's mix-ups a lot stronger. Because reverse cross is transcendent, they have to deal with that at some point, so they can't just chill at ledge. Sometimes they're going to have to commit to going out and edge guarding you when they're not comfortable with it. Within the last 2 years, Belmont's improved his ledge trapping significantly. Some examples of this are slow cross fair at ledge, slow cross holy water, double jump holy water into slow cross, D-tilt 1 into 2 on normal getup, full hop axe setups. I'm personally a fan of the falling short hop holy water setups. There's been multiple spacing method popularities now, including jump air dodge from ledge, also some that involve roll back from ledge. Another reason to be optimistic is just that with solid play, it can be hard to exploit all of Belmont's weaknesses. If a Belmont has good mix-ups and good conditioning, it can be easy for the opponent to lose sight of what they need to do to win in the matchup. In order to talk about how good Belmont is in matchups, you need to talk about Holy Water and SDI out of Holy Water. A lot of early meta SDI on Holy Water focused on how to avoid Belmont Holy Water F Smash. Now it's important to consider all the follow-ups that you might want to avoid. For instance, falling U-Air can often catch the SDI up that people are using to escape Holy Water F-Smash. The SDI to avoid U-Air might make you vulnerable to Holy Water F-Smash again. How easy it is to SDI out of Holy Water before a follow-up depends on a lot of things. The amount of frame advantage Belmont has varies depending on if the bottle was thrown close, whether it was jump Holy Water or not. How easy it is to SDI out of the fire depends on how well you were trapped in it. So if you're just like trapped on it on the side, it's easier to escape, or if you just kind of sort of land on it, some characters can almost just jump out. Often Belmont's just going to need to read the option that you escape the fire with. The overall inconsistency of the Holy Fire is definitely a problem for the character. Other problems include DI on a lot of his setups, although some setups are resilient against DI, for instance reverse cross-up B. DI for a lot of his cross setups are reactable so long as you're positioned well. A common problem for the character is difficulty killing. Some of his main kill tools, Fair and Bear, are also his main neutral tools, so they're usually stale and it makes it harder to kill. Outside of setups or high in the air reads, it can be hard to kill vertically. U-tilt doesn't kill till around 150-180, and up B doesn't kill till around 200. U-air is thin, and Belmont doesn't move very fast in the air, but it can be somewhat effective. Belmonts actually have pretty decent edge guarding, but most Belmonts will opt to ledge trap. It's important to be back to stage in time to set up your ledge trap, because a lot of your advantage in a lot of these matchups is going to come from ledge. While his ledge trap game is really good, it can be hard to actually secure the stock through ledge trapping, since his smash attacks are a little bit harder to use. But yeah, back to why I think this character has so many losing matchups, it's just because of how good all the other characters are when they're piloted well and when they play the matchup. I think the game devs did a good job of making sure that Belmont wasn't too broken. When Belmont has an item in hand, I feel like his options are just a little bit too lackluster. His follow-ups off of Drag Down Nair can be a bit unsafe, however with more percent and rage it actually gives him more frame advantage. There's a lot of cool intricacies with Belmont hitboxes, but it's hard to tell how much they really matter. Back to the chart, I weighted it so that it was a little bit more losing if matchups meet certain criteria. For a lot of characters in the winning category, they have good win conditions on Belmont and have some type of argument that they could be even with Belmont. If you think really hard about a lot of the losing matchups, you can convince yourself that Belmont goes even with them or does well against them. Also, people aren't going to agree which ones those are, that's just the nature of the game. Everyone has different opinions on matchups, so don't worry if you don't agree with my take. Alright, up next we're going to go through each matchup and talk about the character-specific data and some analysis on the matchup. First up we have Ices. Ices are one of Belmont's better matchups, mostly because the range that he operates at lets him hit both of the climbers at the same time from a safe distance. One of the keys to this matchup is respecting Icy's bursty options like side B. Icy's combos can be lethal, so you want to play a pretty safe game. It can be tempting to leave them together so you can hit them at the same time, however, you may find it still important to separate the ice climbers. There's strong follow-ups off of Holy Water at ledge so long as it's short hop Holy Water or falling Holy Water. Holy Specker can work on their recovery, but it can be a bit unclear which ice climber you'll hit. Alright, next up is Ganon. While it's a pretty good matchup for Belmont, it's definitely not trivial. Flame Choke and Wizard Kick are burst options you need to play around. Wizard Kick loses to Holy Water, but can sometimes whiff punish cross. It's important to mix up your tech on Flame Choke. Many Ganons will like to stall at ledge. Axe is the easiest way to get them to choose an option. For Holy Water at ledge, only Holy Water that's falling before his invulnerability runs out will trap him. Falling Holy Water can intercept his recovery, but be careful because his 2-frame can be really low. It tends to work better when they're recovering a little bit more from the side. Belmont's ranged kit does a pretty good job of keeping Little Mac out, which is one of the reasons this matchup is pretty decent. On a surface level, Little Mac dies to a lot of unfortunate things in this matchup, like Holy Water interactions at ledge or projectiles off stage. The recovery isn't as bad when optimized though. He only gets trapped in falling Holy Water, for the other ones he's just going to get tagged and fall. Honestly, K Rool doesn't do that badly in this matchup, and it might be close to even. Crown buffs made it so you can only get through the armor with Tipper, Full Hop, Unstilled, Fair, or Bear. Certain combinations of moves will also get through the armor. If you Holy Water them when they throw Crown, they're usually able to shield before their armor ends. That leaves you in a mix-up situation afterwards. Given the Crown buffs, it's important that you also use Grab to defeat Crown. In general, K Rool's armored moves and his Get Check make things a little bit tricky for the Belmont. Being in the air above K Rool is also pretty bad because of his up air and his up smash. Offstage options like K Rool Nair can make it difficult for Belmont to recover. Holy Water can intercept his recovery, so Holy Spiker is pretty good, but his up B can also kind of poke a little bit, so be careful. Axe can be pretty good on his recovery too, so things like Axe and the F Smash can be pretty good. For Holy Water at ledge, he's only going to get trapped if the Holy Water is falling before his invulnerability runs out. That is an interesting matchup. We have some good counterplay to Spike Ball on stage, however it can do a decent number to us off stage. Good play around their long stem strike, their down B is pretty important. Falling Holy Water can intercept their recovery pretty well, making Holy Spiker pretty good, however they can poke a little bit with their up B. Holy Water at ledge follow-ups are pretty good, so long as the Holy Water is short-hopped. Incineroar is kind of a classic, just don't let them in type of matchup. Incineroar's speed is kind of slow, but he does have some interesting methods to get in on the Belmont if they know what they're doing. It's hard to tell how good this matchup is anymore after they've buffed Incineroar quite a bit. You may find you need to actually pay attention to the revenge stacks now. Incineroar has some great moves to edgeguard Belmont with, so you want to be careful with your recoveries. Holy Water can intercept his recovery to ledge, but he has some damage-based armor and invulnerability frames at the beginning, so those can evade the Holy Water. At ledge, he only gets stuck in Holy Water that's falling before his invulnerability runs out. Next up is Zelda. This matchup is pretty good, but not as good as I think some Belmonts think it is. Cross does a number on a lot of her Knight setups, however she has a few different variations of Knight setups and some of them Cross aren't that effective on. Overall, it's a pretty whip heavy matchup. You want to be playing in mid-range for the most part. She has two good anti-mash tools with her up B, the teleport, and the neutral B, the reflector. The neutral B has intangibility frames that can help her out against some whip mashing. Air dodge in is pretty much certain death from her side B, so make sure to use other recovery mix-ups. In general, she just kills a lot earlier than Belmont does, so be careful of all her lightning kick setups and careful about getting hit by U-Air when you're a buffer. Holy Spiker can work against her, but it's positionally dependent. At ledge, she only gets stuck in falling Holy Water. Next up is the Luigi. This is a classic matchup that's traditionally in Belmont's favor. Luigi can have difficulty in neutral approaching, although he can also counter zone with his Fireball. Luigis are more likely to rely on roll than a lot of other characters. Once Luigi does get in, the damage is real, of course. Belmonts are, I think, one of the easier characters for Luigi to actually 0 to death, although to get in percent range, they usually need to hit you with a D-tilt or a Fireball, and this is actually true no matter which stage you pick, whether it's a low ceiling like FD or a high ceiling like Battlefield, which explains why you'll see a lot of Luigis fishing for a Fireball or D-tilt at the beginning of a stock. If they have a bit of rage, they don't need this initial percent though, so keep that in mind. Rage will typically make it harder to follow up on the DI SDI for the combo though. When it comes to SDI and DI for the 0 to death, there's a lot of information and misinformation to go around. Some Luigis will say they can follow up on any SDI or DI and still get the 0 to death on reaction. That said, some of the common strategies are to the SDI in or to SDI out and then mix up your DI. It's kind of situationally dependent. Many Luigis will opt to just finish the combo with a lot of damage instead, especially if there's like a platform there. Disadvantage for Belmont can be kind of tough. Offstage you have to deal with Plunger, and you have to deal with Luigi aerials, which are actually really good at edgeguarding tethers. Luigi dash attack also sets up into some pretty bad situations for Belmont offstage. A disadvantage for Luigi is, I assume, not very fun for the Luigi player either. You want to abuse this a lot and not get reversals. For instance, while ledge trapping, you want to make sure you don't get reversaled with a back throw. You can intercept Luigi's recovery with falling Holy Water, however following up on it can be a little bit difficult because depending on where they start their up B, they end up in different places when they get caught by the Holy Water. You can also Holy Water their side B. It gets really trapped in Holy Water, whether it's short hop or falling or grounded. Donkey Kong is an interesting matchup. Donkey Kong actually has a lot of the range to contest a lot of our moves directly. While it's generally agreed in the West that Belmont does pretty well against DK, in Japan apparently many Belmonts think that DK does well in this matchup. Either way, as the Belmont, your execution needs to be on point in this matchup. You need to always be aware of his burst options. Dash attack can catch you unaware in mashing. Remember that it's basically frame even if you shield it at the very end. DK will often use Whirling Fortress to try to get a kill off the side. It has armor, so it's important to know what interacts with it and how, and what options it beats, like Holy Water Bottle. Be aware of his B-reverse down B landing options, they combo. DK only gets trapped in falling Holy Water, so you'll typically have to catch his lead chain manually. Holy Spiker can work on DK's recovery, but it can be hard to time if they get there quickly. Options like Axe and the follow-up are also very good on his recovery. Kazuya is kind of an unusual matchup. Kazuya's weaknesses in the matchup are his overall speed and his lengthy jump squat. The long jump squat makes it harder for him to approach with shield. Compensating for those weaknesses, he has some options to help him out, like his command grab, his armored moves, and his crouch dash. Crouch dash can get him under F-tilt with its invincibility, but it doesn't have enough invincibility to get through cross, or Holy Water. To help with that, Kazuya has a Reflector. Reflected cross can actually start killing at around 110%. Reflected axe is sent back at an angle that is basically never going to hit you. He does have some armor that'll let him get out of rapid jab, but his tough guy on Holy Water ends at around 9%, so it's basically only good for like running through one Holy Water at 0%, or like being at ledge at 0. He can act out of his up B, so he doesn't have to go to ledge. You can catch his low recovery with Holy Spiker or Axe. He's pretty edge guardable, just make sure to play around laser. For Holy Water at ledge, he only gets caught with Holy Water that's falling before the invulnerability runs out. If you get caught in EWGF, make sure to mix up your DI late, it can make it harder for them to follow up. He does have full DLC ledge invulnerability frame 1 to 30, so be aware of that and his other high reward options off of ledge. His damage output and his kill power are pretty extreme, so make sure to use the advantages that you have in the matchup. King Dedede is a fairly decent matchup for Belmont. The range of Belmont's mid-range whip helps him out a lot. Almost everything in Belmont's kit sends the Gordo back at Dedede, which is really good on the surface level, however Dedede can just toss them right back at you if he's prepared. This reduces the mix-up effectiveness after hitting a Gordo back at Dedede. Moves like Dedede Dedede fair can make the matchup volatile offstage. He has 4 jumps in the air, so keep that in mind when catching landings. You can intercept his up B with Holy Water, but parts of it have invulnerability towards the beginning. For Holy Water on ledge weight, you only have follow-ups if it's falling Holy Water. Kirby can have a hard time getting in on Belmont, but if he does, the damage can be brutal. He's also pretty good at edgeguarding Belmont, so he can take a stock with very few neutral wins. Between Kirby's crouch, his detail, and his shield, it can be hard to hit Kirby without doing something committal on the Belmont end, since crouch low profile is F-tilt and rising aerials. If a Kirby uses this well enough, they can tilt the risk reward in their favor. It's up to the Belmont to use their other strengths in the matchup. They have 5 jumps mid-air. They have follow-ups out of short hop Holy Water, and a little bit of grounded Holy Water. You can intercept their recovery with Holy Water if they go to ledge. Mii Sword Fighter can be a fun but grueling matchup for both parties. Their chakram feels a little bit similar to our cross. Our mid-range range advantage is nice, but we might not be able to punch as much things as you might think. Make sure to understand risk reward around Tornado, because it can net them stocks relatively early. The Reflector is pretty useful, but there's counterplay. Catching a recovery with Holy Water can be a bit odd. Follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Lucas can play this MU pretty rushdown. He's got a lot of safe moves on shield, nice combos, and conversions. He can edgeguard Belmont with his up B, and also has the tether mix-up for his recovery. You want to use Belmont's range and abuse Lucas's disadvantage. You can intercept his recovery with Holy Water. There's follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight for falling Holy Water. You can get it sometimes for short hop near ledge Holy Water, but it's inconsistent. Steve and Alex are a bit of a debated matchup, I would say. They're very weak to Holy Water at ledge if they go to ledge. Blocks and up B give them a lot of freedom for going over ledge. They do have full DLC ledge rule intangibility, so be aware. The whip moves go through the blocks in this matchup, which is really nice. You can even F-smash them through the blocks if you catch them mining. In neutral, Belmont has the range advantage, but some of Steve's bursty short hop options can be pretty problematic. Also, mashing in that mid-range distance will make you vulnerable to minecart. There's a lot to know about minecart, like how to hit him out of it, the mix-up game on shield. It's important to have good play around minecart. You can 2-frame his recover with Holy Water, but Holy Water follow-ups can be a bit strange. Corrin is another character that has a decent bit of range, however the mid-range game still feels pretty good for Belmont. Disadvantage against Corrin can be a little tough because it's hard to land. If they F-smash your shield, one of the counterplays is supposed to be release shield into SDI up. Be aware of their pin on ledge weight option. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups off of falling Holy Water. You can intercept their up B with Holy Water fairly well. Duck Hunt is an explosive matchup, kinda literally. There's projectiles everywhere from both parties. Most of Belmont's advantage in the matchup comes from mid-range whip, and the ability of Cross and his other projectiles to take out Gunman and Can. Duck Hunt is very good at vertically juggling Belmont. If Duck Hunt does go to ledge, the follow-ups off of Holy Water on ledge weight are very good. Mii Gunner is like another mid-range whip matchup. That said, a lot of Gunner's options aren't as punishable as they seem. Grenade can be a bit problematic to deal with because it lingers for a while, and remember they have a Reflector. There's a few different common Gunner builds, so make sure you're prepared. You can catch the recovery with Holy Water if they go to ledge. Also, the Holy Water on ledge weight options are very good. Some of Gunner's hitboxes like up air and F smash can be kind of problematic, so just keep those in mind. Being ledge trapped by Gunner is actually pretty awful, and you want to avoid that. Against Dr. Mario, most of Belmont's advantage comes from Dr. Mario being slow. This makes it pretty hard for them to get in, but if they do, their strings can be pretty rewarding. They don't have the same true follow-ups as Mario though, so you want to be careful about air dodging out of strings. Dr. Mario's counter zoning with pills can be pretty decent. Some of the pill angles can be hard to hit with whip or maneuver around. His recovery isn't the greatest, so it's good to learn how to edgeguard him. Don't forget he has a Reflector cape. You can catch his low recovery with falling Holy Water. For ledge weight Holy Water, the follow-ups are really good. I think Toon Link actually does pretty decently against Belmont, mostly because of his speed and his small size. Also, their rapid fire rate makes the projectile game either pretty even or in his favor depending on positioning, but mid-range whip makes up for it. Toon Link can punish ledge weight pretty well, so be careful. You can intercept his recovery with Holy Water, and the follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Villager is a decent matchup for Belmont. Slingshot can be troublesome to deal with, but in general, Belmont has the range advantage. His S-Smash is the ball, which makes stages with walls like Kalos and Autoban. The ball can still be pretty effective even without walls, but there's more leeway. History can be useful in ledge trapping. You can use his side B to go over ledge, but I think Belmont can call that out pretty well. Falling Holy Water can be tricky on his up B recovery because of the balloons. Axe can get more frame advantage from the balloons, but you run the risk of your Axe getting pocketed. Holy Water on ledge weight follow-ups are pretty good, but timing is tricky because of the balloons. Villager can do almost everything that Isabelle can, and then some, but there's something about Isabelle that makes her feel more like a counter pick. Rosalina and Luma are a pretty cool matchup. Most of Belmont's advantage in the matchup comes from his range and his ability to deal with Luma. That said, Rosa has a lot of advantages in the matchup too. Rosa's advantage state is pretty strong, her vertical pressure makes it difficult to land, and her edgeguard options can take stocks early. Luma still kinda acts as a wall and makes neutral more complicated. When Rosa is played optimized, I'm not sure whose favor this matchup is on. Disadvantage can be a little bit tough for Rosa. She's a big floaty target. Gravitational Pull helps her against projectiles, but it can be baited out and then punished with Whip. Holy Water can intercept her recovery, but she can stall for a while. For Holy Water on Ledge Weight, there's follow-ups for Falling Holy Water, and some for short hop near Ledge Holy Water. Ness is a pretty interesting case. The advantages in this matchup mostly come from punishing his disadvantage. He's floaty and can be hard for him to get out of disadvantage. Belmont has the range advantage, but Ness has a lot of options that challenge him at his range, like Fair and PK Fire. His mix-ups on getting in also are a bit better than you might expect, between Fair, Grab, and Dash Attack. Belmont disadvantage is pretty rough off stage between PK Thunder and his other edge guards. PK Thunder can also make it very difficult to land. There's only Ledge Weight Holy Water follow-ups for Falling Holy Water, which is pretty unusual for small characters. Honestly, this matchup really isn't that great for Belmont. You can do a number on his recovery either with like direct edge guards or with Falling Holy Water on his LP. He has some mix-ups with stalling and air dodge up that make it harder to call out his recovery. Next up we have Ike. I think this matchup was closer to true even before they refactored Ike. There's still Nair combos even after they increased the Nair knockback, but there's definitely more breathing room now than there was before. That said, it can be kinda hard to land against Ike, and he can cheese you off stage with his Fair. His ledge trapping and corner pressure are pretty good. His Nair can cover a lot of reversal out of corner options, so keep that in mind. In neutral, remember Nair can be safe on shield. It could be worth calling out Nair startup with an aerial of your own. Ike can encounter difficulties approaching with the projectile wall, however they usually know this and have workarounds, so don't abuse it for too long. If they have to recover low with up B, that's really bad for Ike. We have some move to cover all of their up B mix-ups, but I don't think we can be positioned to cover them all at the same time. Most of the time, Ike will recover with side B. Belmont has fairly strong ways to cover that if he goes on stage, but he has to abandon ledge pressure to do that, so there's some mix-up left. Also, Axe can be timed to fall with his side B. For Holy Water on ledge weight, he only has follow-ups off of Falling Holy Water. Next up is Ryu. While Ken and Ryu are really similar, I feel like just some small key differences between the two really change the outcome of the matchups. Namely, Ryu's speed in the air is just not quite as good as Ken's. Like, Ken can just chase you in the air. Belmont can mostly just whip away Hadouken and Shakunetsu, so Ryu doesn't get that much increased zoning advantage in this matchup. Ryu does have some advantages that Ken doesn't have, like the Tatsumaki kill setups, but most of the matchup is common with Ken, and I'll talk about that part later. Banjo and Kazuya can be a pretty even feeling matchup. A lot of the advantage here comes from that the whip outranges their normals. That said, their normals can be oddly tricky to deal with. They can zone or camp pretty well with Egg and Grenade, so the Belmont is usually going to have to find a way to break into that mid-range. Banjo's projectiles can also be pretty good at edge guarding. Mid-range mash, especially projectile mash, is dangerous because it can be called out by Wonder Ring. For Wonder Ring on shield, at some ranges we can F-smash it, but if they have bomb, it may or may not work out in your favor. Other distances have other punishes. In my opinion, Banjo is a slightly underrated character that might even win this matchup. You can tag his recovery with Holy Water sometimes. For Holy Water at ledge, there's only follow-ups on Falling Holy Water. Oh yeah, and Banjo has full DLC ledge rule intangibility too. Sora is another really odd DLC case. On one hand, he's really floaty, which is usually pretty good for Belmont to deal with, but Sora was designed extra floaty to the point where it's almost hard to catch his landings, and a lot of his kit works in the air. It's hard to tell how much of a threat his Nair looping is. Mostly I just see it used as a couple BNBs and kill confirms. He's almost a nice target in the air, except that his large feet don't count. Sora's counter and his dash attack can be a little bit tricky to deal with. For his edge guarding, he almost seems like a weird mix of Pikachu and Bayo, but with a sword, which are both really bad for Belmont. Belmont has a lot of tools to deal with Sora planking, but Sora has over-ledge mix-ups, so he doesn't have to go to ledge that often. Make sure to optimize your strategy against their side B onto stage. If he does go to ledge, Belmont has strong follow-ups off of short hop holy water and falling short hop holy water. That said, be careful not to tunnel vision while ledge trapping, and always be aware when he has Thundaga up next. This matchup seems fine for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sora does better over time. Ridley is a kind of comical matchup. It's super volatile because he can edge guard you really early, and Ridley is big and gets comboed by Belmont really well. Some of Ridley's big hitboxes like his up smash can make it hard for Belmont to land. Make sure to understand your options on his fireball mix-ups. Ridley has a really good ledge hang, so you can't hit him with regular whip moves except for like a perfectly timed Fair Bear. However, Holy Water on ledge weight makes him perkbox shift up really far, so he's really vulnerable. He shifts up so far that you can even follow up with cross. You can intercept his recovery with Holy Water, but in practice it seems a little awkward. He has 2 jumps in the air. Between Pit and Dark Pit, I definitely think regular Pit does better in the MU, due to regular Pit's arrows. Dark Pit can still do a lot with his arrows though. I'll talk about the rest when we get to regular Pit. The Ditto is pretty fun but volatile because both characters have bad disadvantage. At the same time, they can both be tanky and have a hard time killing. Belmont can edgeguard Belmont with Fair, Bear, or Nair, or even Bottle or other projectiles. The balance between edgeguarding and ledge trapping can be tricky because they can throw reverse cross and that'll make ledge trapping harder. You definitely want to know how to get out of your own ledge traps, like when to jump or normal get up through projectiles. D-tilt can get under some of Belmont's traps like F-tilt, but F-tilt can also get the start of the D-tilt. Since it's a Ditto, a lot of it comes down to exploiting the weaknesses better than your opponent. Patient play and pressure will usually win out if your opponent is using more committal moves than you are. Make sure to know your mix-up punishes when they detailed on your shield, and your punishes for dash attack on shield. Know how to punish bad dare landings and landings in general. Understand how to punish whiffed uppies or uppies on shield, and how to bait them out. Rising Fair and Bear, when executed well, are only -14, so they're not directly punishable with Fair or Bear. How either player reacts to the situation can give the other player information and potentially give them a weakness to use later. Make sure to understand how to space your moves against Belmont up B. A lot of the outcome will be determined by the difference in how well the players ledge trap and how well they recover, and and how well they're able to get out of ledge traps. So whatever the outcome, make sure to use the opportunity to learn, because the Ditto can provide a lot of insight. For ledge weight, there's only Holy Water follow-ups out of Falling Holy Water Dare. For Falling Holy Water on his recovery, it works better with up B. You can sometimes catch the tether from below, but there's timing mix-ups. Now we have Bowser. While parts of this matchup can be particularly painful for Bowser, I think he actually does pretty well in the matchup. He's a big body and easy to combo, but he's fast and has a command grab. Being on ledge is super painful for both parties. Bowser's large hitboxes really pressure Belmont in the air, and his fair off stage can take stocks really early. The large fair, given its size and Bowser's speed, by itself makes the matchup really volatile. It's definitely a matchup you need to remember all the spacing you need for the different interactions and how to deal with things like Bowser Bomb, etc. Tough Guy gets him out of rapid jab. For Holy Water, it activates Tough Guy into 132%. If he's in the air, that will trigger like a falling animation before he's able to get to the ground and then to shield. So if you hit him with the bottle while he's on the ground, he'll be in the air when he gets impacted with the fire. In these cases, he's able to shield just before the 9th hit on the combo meter, which gives you enough time for a quick F smash or other follow-ups. Falling Viewer doesn't seem to connect well in these cases, but Nair can set up for the Tough Guy Infinite. Execution on the Tough Guy Infinite can be a little difficult and tight, so you want to weigh the risk of making a mistake and getting reversal. Using Tough Guy, they could run through Holy Water. They can shield faster if they're on the ground when they get hit by Holy Fire, so like if they normal get up into the fire, for instance. They can also ledge jump through the fire, it just slows them down a little bit. If he waits on ledge, Tough Guy lets him still choose an option even after he gets hit by Holy Water. Once he hits 132%, you can treat him like a normal character as far as Holy Water is concerned. For follow-ups on Holy Water on ledge weight, it's only for falling Holy Water that's timed before the invulnerability ends. Holy Water can intercept his recovery, but sometimes it's a little bit weird where it seems to just keep going and then still grab ledge. Next up is DLC Belmont 3 Sephiroth. A lot of this feels like the Ditto, except he gets wing and an extra jump, and he's lighter. The characters can operate at similar ranges, and Belmont's angled aerial seems to help out a lot. Some of Sephiroth's strengths in this matchup are his good edge guarding and his ability to make it really hard for Belmont to land or just be in the air. A key interaction in this matchup is down tilt underneath his landing fair. If he goes to ledge with up B, you can often intercept it with Holy Water. There is a timing mix-up between Blade Dash and Octo Slash for it though. If you try to follow up on the Holy Water hitting them, sometimes you can get poked by the Octo Slash, so be careful. Axe can also be kind of effective on the recovery. For follow-ups on Holy Water on ledge weight, he only has them for falling Holy Water. His ledge planking can be a little bit problematic, but Belmont does have a lot of options. If you're not max spaced, Sephiroth's counter can be really brutal. Octo Slash on shield is extremely negative, you can usually get a Holy Water out of it. Sephiroth can do pretty well in this matchup, but it can also feel pretty miserable for him because he's pretty tall and gets hit by a lot of projectiles. Because he's light and floaty, he can kind of have that Jigglypuff effect where you can just jump on top of the fire and then jump right out again. He's one of the only 2 DLCs that don't have the full DLC ledge rule in vulnerability. Time for DLC Belmont number 1. I honestly think Byleth wins this matchup just because it's riskier for Belmont to use his double jump than it is for Byleth. When Byleth originally launched, the matchup felt really good for Belmont. While the range was similar, Belmont had the angled aerials and the speed, and Belmont could play at a range where he didn't usually have to deal with Byleth's up-close options like other characters would. With the passing of time and Byleth's buffs, it's more clear what Byleth's strengths are now. In general, Byleth has great coverage for opponents that are in the air or wish to land. Between Byleth's up air and her side B, it's very hard to land as Belmont. Belmont can edgeguard Byleth, but in general, Byleth is going to have the advantage in edgeguarding because of the longer tether. The bottle can be unironically helpful against Byleth that's trying to stall off stage. Depending on the timing, they can catch it and still recover though. Falling Holy Water is only going to be effective against their tether if they recover from beneath, and they may be able to stall out the Holy Water before reeling in. Byleth has full DLC ledge rule and vulnerability. It also has significant drift after ledge jump, which makes it falling out her jumps with Belmont aerials kind of risky, especially given Byleth's ranged options. You'll want to know how to play around her D-tilt to up air confirm, and how to handle the mix-up games around Byleth Nair. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water time before the invuln ends. A couple quick notes about Byleth's arrow. It only releases at 2 different timings. You can't react to the release of the early timing, so you'll need to respect it a lot of the time, especially if Byleth is off stage and you're waiting at ledge. Jigglypuff is a funny matchup. There's a lot going on in favor for Belmont in this matchup, mostly just Jigglypuff being light and having to deal with Belmont whipping projectiles while she's in the air. If she ever goes to ledge, she could be caught by Holy Water, and once at ledge, the follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Instead, Jigglypuff is really good at edge guarding Belmont, especially given the buffed F-throw angle, which is almost GG's. Other things to look out for in this matchup are UR rest and dare loops. You may need to learn SDI for dare loops. Mewtwo is a volatile matchup, mostly because of his edge guarding, but also because of his good advantage state. Shadow Ball is better for counter zoning than one might expect. There's something funny about how similar charged Shadow Ball on shield into fair is to Axe into fair for Belmont. Teleport to ledge from beneath can be vulnerable to Holy Water, but remember that teleport characters can invincible teleport to ledge as long as they're above ledge. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. Honestly, Belmont's matchup against Pac Man is pretty good. A lot of people think that Belmont wins the matchup, and even I think that sometimes. It's hard to justify though based on how Pac Man is just kind of a better, more relevant character in the meta right now. That said, Belmont's range gives him a lot of advantage advantage in the matchup, you can play around the hydrant and Pac Man's fruit pretty well. It's important to respect Ki. Pac Man will often charge until it gets Ki, and can catch you mashing options at range if you're not prepared. You'll want to learn to play with the other fruit as well, for instance Apple. Pac Man has some 0 to death combo strings from the stage off to the side. You can kind of catch his up B with Holy Water, but not usually a side special. For Trampoline, it's important to remember that after so many jumps, when it turns red, it'll put you into freefall. Once Pac Man gets to ledge, the follow-ups off of Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Samus, this matchup is really something. How to explain it? Like, the matchup is fine for me, but I don't think Belmont wins it, which is not a terribly popular opinion, but I think people really underrate Samus. Mid-range whip is definitely good in the matchup, making it harder for Samus to use her normals, and allowing him ways to get through her ranged options. But she can compete in a lot of those ranges with Sarah, Charge Shot, and Missile, and anti-air a lot with Fair. Make sure you're not getting anti-aired with Fair too much when mashing Belmont aerials. A lot of our attacks beat out uncharged Charge Shot, so mix-ups like Dash Attack through Charge Shot are actually pretty decent. I feel like Samus is a better character at close range. Samus is one of the better ledge trappers in the game, and probably better than Belmont at ledge trapping. Against a good Samus, you should have a hard time getting off the ledge past like 80%. There's some mix-ups there, and taking a hit from the bomb or not, but it can be very difficult. You can often intercept your up B to ledge with Holy Water, and then get a follow-up like either Dare or D-Smash or F-Smash. Once she gets to ledge, there's only a follow-ups off of Falling Holy Water. Wii Fit is a kind of cool matchup. I think a lot of people's perception about what Wii Fit is and what she wants to do are a little bit off. Wii Fit is fairly comfortable on the stage and can be somewhat aggressive. While her safe aerials can be kind of awkward to land in comparison to other characters, they definitely do a lot for her in the matchup, but we can see effectiveness of shield a lot in this matchup. So the Belmont's going to have to rely more on movement and contesting her in the air sometimes. When she has deep breathing, her aerials are even safer. Wii Fit's damage output in deep breathing is really high, so even if Belmont does a little bit better in neutral overall, she can make the deficit back really quickly. Her bear at frame 8 out of shield can directly punish F-tilt at some ranges, and can punish a lot of aerials that aren't landed super well. For her header, it goes at different angles depending on the timing, so you can get caught off guard if you're trying to whip finish it. It's important to keep Sun in mind as well. When Wii Fit kind of does just hang out off stage or at ledge, the interactions can be really funny. While those interactions can go kind of comically bad for Wii Fit, she also has some powerful mix-ups from the ledge. You want to take into account the angle of header that goes like right at your feet. For just getting out of ledge traps, Wii Fit has her long ledge roll in her favor and also her thin profile. To take into account her long ledge roll, you usually need to use other traps that either you stand back further or you use turnaround grab, etc. They'll often like to mash an aggressive option after ledge rolling to catch your mash option. Her thin profile lets her find gaps in a lot of those slow cost setups that other characters will have a much harder time getting through. You can intercept her up B to ledge, but follow-ups are kind of iffy. For Holy Water on ledge weight, she only has follow-ups off of Falling Holy Water. This very matchup can be pretty fun. His floatiness makes him a nice target in the air. The specials in the air give him a bit of mix-up, so it's important to learn how to work around them. If you forget that the character is super DLC, the matchup feels in Belmont favor. However, he is super DLC. In addition to Go, he just has great combos and great kill confirms, so you'll want to use the advantages that you have in the matchup to the fullest. It's important to understand the SCI mix-ups around Jab Jab Power Dunk and Jab Jab Rising Tackle. Depending on the positioning, you'll usually still get hit by Jab Jab Power Dunk, but it'll at least still be the light version. Make sure to recognize aerial auto-cancel Power Dunk and try to avoid being caught with it on shield. Even a small delay in Jab Jab Power Dunk will make it shield poke, so make sure to be aware of those mix-ups. Like the other FGC characters, they'll like to spike your ledge jump, so try not to buffer ledge jump or use it at the same timing. You can intercept their up special recovery with Holy Water, and it can be hard for them to recover cleanly to ledge again, so using Holy Water repeatedly until you can get a follow-up can be a decent strat. For Holy Water on ledge weight, he only has follow-ups for Falling Holy Water timed before the invulnerability runs out. Belmont Lucina can be a pretty dynamic matchup. Both characters have a pretty strong advantage state over the other. While there can be a higher base difficulty for the Lucina player, spacing around Belmont's range and his shield, I do think Lucina has the edge in this matchup. She's significantly floaty, so she can get juggled and frame trapped really well. The flip side of that is that her advantage state against Belmont is really good. Her aerials outrange Nair and outspace Dare, so Belmont has very little mix and disadvantage. Her edge guarding against Belmont can be pretty good, especially if she gets a good angle and frame advantage from the move that sends you off stage. If a Belmont has enough recovery mix-ups, it can be hard for Lucina to reliably edgeguard Belmont, but she can hit them often enough that it's still a large threat. Some may prefer to ledge trap you because they don't want to risk you getting back before them, but then that gives you space to throw reverse cross. Falling Holy Water can intercept her recovery. If her up B gets stuck in the Holy Water, she can usually up B to ledge before you can get another Falling Holy Water out, so you'll want to punish on the first Falling Holy Water or just do ledge trap. Lucina can have a bit of a tough time on ledge. We outrange most of her drop-off options. A slight walk back and her F-tilt will catch both of her roll and her normal getup. If she waits at ledge, she gets caught by both Falling Holy Water and by short hop Holy Water. Martha's less consistent, but can be a little bit more annoying in some aspects to deal with. We like to operate in mid-range where he's more likely to get tippers. Some of his moves like dash attack set up for early percent edge guards. He also has kill setups that can kill relatively early. Hero is a kind of odd matchup. A lot of this matchup is good for Belmont, especially against Space Hero. We have the range advantage, and he's kind of floaty with not the best mobility, so it feels pretty good in neutral. That said, he outranges us with his Lightning Whip, but it's negative enough on shield we can fair bear it. Bounce can definitely disrupt the normal gameplay a little bit, but Belmont's mid-range whip still does well against him. It's honestly more of a disruption just because it's harder to see his animations. You don't want to camp more in this matchup because Hero with buffs is tough to deal with. Accelerado gives him a ton of mobility, while some of his other power-ups set up for shield breaks with Dare and F-Smash. On ledge weight, most of his follow-ups are from Falling Holy Water, but there is also Dare on Short Hop Holy Water. Holy Water can interfere with his uppy recovery, but he doesn't necessarily have to go to ledge, especially since he has Zoom. Belmont does fairly well against Isabelle, yet Isabelle is still something of a counterpick against Belmont. Things like her fair trading and her good edge guarding are tough for Belmont to deal with. If you can manage to Holy Water her ledge weight, it's really good against her, but her balloons are going to protect her from a lot of Holy Water traps. Her balloons can delay your axe and give you more frame advantage for your traps. However, pocketed axe can be very dangerous in the MU, so use it wisely. Her ground beat trapping, her faster ground speed, and her up tilt give her some things that Villager doesn't have, although Villager has things that are better too, like up smash. Robin is an interesting character. There's definitely some camaraderie with Belmont and Robin because of the similarities in their movesets, mostly the ranged normals and projectiles. I think back before Robin had the Arcfire range buff, Belmont had the advantage, but the buff makes the Arcfire significantly more troublesome when they're off stage. You can still hit them when they Arcfire off stage or hit the Arcfire itself so it doesn't interfere with trapping, but they definitely have a lot more mix now, like mixing the ranges they can throw Arcfire from. While Belmont technically outranges Robin aerials, you're going to have a hard time reacting to their jumps and outranging them directly, especially against their ledge jumps because they're likely to hit your outstretched arm. You may find you want to delay your timing so you can whiff punish their aerials instead. Some things about neutral, technically you can F-tilt all their projectiles away on reaction, but it can be hard to do against some of them. It's preferable to hit the Arc Fire, but if you do shield it, you can just roll away. You never want to shield or parry Arc Thunder. There's shield break setups from that. If you can navigate around their range, their floatiness and general bad disadvantage helps a lot in the matchup. Where I think Belmont has a decent bit of disadvantage in this matchup is from Nosferatu. It weakens the shield option a lot. There's counterplay to bait it out or to anti-air it, but given the later percents that Belmont can often kill at, Robin can heal like 40 or 50%. There are some similarities in the Arc Fire and Holy Water ledge traps. They can technically do falling Arc Fire conversions too. For their upbeat ledge, Holy Water is really good against it if you can avoid their Arc Fire. You definitely want to be aware of their remaining Wind Tome uses. The Wind Tome discard can interfere with your follow-up. It could be tempting to just keep catching them with fire over and over again until they run out of Wind Tome uses. They can technically air dodge up though, so keep that in mind. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. Youngly has a lot going for them, especially with Fire Arrow. They can make the Belmont come to them. Their projectile setups and confirms are really good. They have lots of really safe aerials on shield. In general, they're going to be killing at a little bit earlier percent than Belmont will. He's not that fast and he's a bit floaty, so he struggles against Belmont's range a little bit. His matchup might be worse, except that his ledge rule is just really bad. You can sometimes interrupt their recovery with Holy Water or Axe, but they're often going to be throwing things at you. For ledge weight, there's good follow-ups off of Falling and Short Hop Holy Water, which helps a lot. Alright, Ken Masters. Unpopular opinion, I don't think Belmont actually wins this matchup. If you catch his recovery with Holy Water, he just falls out. If they recover pretty low and then Shoryuken, it's hard to do much about it. That said, you definitely want to call out their higher Tatsus. For Holy Water on ledge weight, you only have follow-ups if it's Falling Holy Water timed before their invulnerability ends. When trapping them at ledge or in the corner, you definitely want to be aware of timings that they can jump out, because their aerial reversals can be very damaging. Belmont has some nice things in this matchup, because when you fight him at mid-range, you don't have to box him directly. You can break out of some of his shield pressure sequences with up B, but if something goes wrong or the up B clanks, you're going to take a large punish from up B, often up to like 50% or a stock confirm. While up B is still really important in this matchup, it's just unfortunate to have to rely on it so much in such a volatile matchup. It can even be called or baited out on shield by their special cancel options. For instance, Falling Dare or Nair is cancelled into Shoryu or Focus. Back to their shield pressure sequences, you definitely want to learn the mix of counterplay to them eventually. One nice thing is that the main shield break sequence doesn't seem to work very much on Belmont, mostly because it seems to push him out of the way. Ken is pretty fast and his Nair is pretty bursty, so there's always that base threat in the matchup. He can also chase you in the air with up air Shoryu. Mixing up aerials and cross timings can be super helpful. Crosswell falling can be nice. A lot of the gameplay is going to be grounded, and a lot of Ken parries, footsies, and all that. One thing to note is that when Ken is near you, he's basically an advantage, so you may want to avoid a lot of drag down Nair setups. There's a lot of situations where they can detailed after drag down Nair, and it will beat out grab or clink with up B. I think it may be better to use the launcher hit of Nair. Disadvantage against Ken can be tricky. This is definitely one part where you want to know the matchup. Be careful mixing up your usage of defensive options and tech options, because the Shoto player will track this. An important move to be aware of is his procs jab. It's a jab that only activates when he's near you. It leaves you in a situation where you can act just above the ground. This is one of the main places they track your defensive options. It's pretty easy for them to follow up on a lot of air dodge options, so you want to use more jump. Up B can punish procs jab on hit if they don't special cancel. At really low percent, you can even punish it with Holy Water. When Belmont is at ledge, Ken Dare Spike can be a threat on ledge jump, so be very careful with buffering ledge jump or using a predictable timing. For SDI against Ken, I'm not sure how effective SDI is on his up tilt to Shoryu for Belmont specifically, but they have ways to cover it if it is. You definitely want to SDI his other hit strings because it limits the follow-ups you can get. For instance, SDI away on low percent strings can be helpful. I think Link does pretty well in this matchup, which is another opinion that's not common amongst a lot of Belmonts. Good Links are rare, so I think that's part of it. Their mobility and frame data aren't the best, so we definitely have some advantage with mid-range whip, but you gotta deal with bomb traps and boomerang traps that are already in play when you're at that range. Link wins the long-range projectile war, so Belmont will feel some pressure to approach. Link has some type of strategy to deal with you at every range, so you want to be aware of what the Link is looking for. There's a mix-up pressure scenario where they throw a bomb at you in neutral. If it's around mid-range aggressive catch catching options can be good. If you shield it around mid-range, they'll typically grab you. But if you're further away, you'll want to consider shielding because they can detonate the bomb. A lot of conditioning can happen because of that, so you want to be aware of those ranges. You want to be good at dealing with Link boomerang traps because that's how they build up a lot of damage really quickly. Link Nair is considered by some people to be one of the best in the game. It's very safe, very active, and low landing lag. As a tool in the matchup, it can be used many different ways. Short hop full momentum Nair can be a threat in near mid-range and can incentivize the Belmont to step back a little bit further. There's all sorts of full hop and double jump Nair mix-ups that can be drifted away. You don't want to be reliant on up B in these situations. Depending on the situation, up B can either whiff, trade, get beaten out, or beat out Nair, but overall the balance isn't favorable. Link has the same fast fall multiplayer as Joker, so you can mix up how long he stays in the air. Falling Holy Water can make it hard for them to up B to ledge, but they usually space a bit, so it's not super effective. Axe may be the better offstage pressure tool. If he does go to ledge weight is really bad for him. There's follow-ups off of both short hop and grounded holy water. His ledge roll is decent, at least in terms of total length. His get up attack is decent as well. That said, Link players don't have to go to ledge, and often elect not to go to ledge at all after certain percents. We can still pressure them after their high bomb recovery, but it's a better situation for them than ledge. When it comes to Belmont being offstage, Link has a lot of options to deal with it. He can go with a non-committal throw bomb option and explode it to cover a lot of your recovery options. These can end your stock at most percents, so it can be pretty volatile. Link can go with more of a checkmate approach, where they shoot an arrow or two off stage, threaten with an aerial, and then up B high recovery mix-ups. Nair can be effective at far out ranges before Belmont can tether. Drop-off Nair and ledge slip Nair can be effective at catching tether real ends. Overall, Link is going to be killing a little bit earlier in this matchup because swords kill earlier. For Link's bouncing bomb ledge trap, one nice thing that we have is that we can delay our tether real in to stall out the active frames of the bomb. Be careful because the bomb will extend the active frames of their moves. There's jump catch options, but make sure to be aware of the bounce of the bomb. Olimar is one of the relevant meta matches that Belmont is considered to do well against. A lot of this is because Cross seats up a lot of his Pikmin. The ranged whip play lets Belmont work around a lot of Olimar's range. While Olimar has some ability in the air, his floatiness makes him a target in the air for Belmont projectiles and whip. That said, Olimar is still a pretty small character, so there's difficulty there. People always talk about how Shuton dared a Pikmin to recover, but they never talk about how he lost the set after Holy Water U-Smash didn't connect because Olimar was too short. For such a small character, Olimar has a lot of range. The range, power, and knockback of his moves depends on what Pikmin are in the lineup. I'm not going to go over all of that. A couple important ones are blue Pikmin gives him an up throw kill throw. White Pikmin accumulates the most damage when it's lashed onto you. Purple Pikmin is dangerous overall, and when tossed, it hits you like a projectile. If you want to know more about how the Pikmin interact, there's a few guides around. Olimar is a bit faster on the ground than one might expect, and his dash and his shield takes him a decent distance. His range on grab may catch you by surprise sometimes, so keep that in mind. Dealing with Olimar just outside of mid-range or long range can be a bit challenging because of his Pikmin lashing. Belmont doesn't have great non-committal options to get rid of Pikmin. He has decent options that you can use kind of in the flow of a situation, like dash attack, up B. Full Hop Nair can sometimes completely kill the white Pikmin, but it doesn't always work and it's kind of committal. Some of the counterplay to this is that you want to make life hard for the Olimar. They should feel like their Pikmin keep dying and they don't have enough time to pull out more. The Belmont doesn't want to give him space to get more Pikmin or throw more Pikmin. When Belmont gets Olimar into disadvantage, you want to extend it and use Olimar's weaknesses against him. It can be tricky because he can fly over ledge and throw Pikmin at you. Unfortunately, I don't think Falling Holy Water is good against their recovery. They have ways to stall around it pretty well and ways to get to ledge quickly and avoid 2 frames. Or at least they can grab ledge from further lower than you'd expect. The other projectiles are still pretty decent off stage though, as well as aerials and other things to edgeguard. If you get Olimar to go to ledge, he's definitely in a bind as far as Holy Water at ledge weight is considered. It can be easy to overextend an advantage and get reversaled because of Whistle. It has armor on frames 2 to 7 and is only 17 frames long. It can also get them through things like preemptive anti-airs. A lot of the matchup against Lucario feels pretty good until he gets Aura. He's a bit floaty and something of a target in the air, but he has a lot of reverse mix-ups, etc. too. His full hop can be pretty high, which makes air-to-airs a bit tricky. His Nair is especially safe on shield. For Holy Water at ledge weight, there's only follow-ups off of Falling Holy Water. Lucario's ledge roll notably covers a large distance. He also has lots of mix with ledge jump. His ledge jump goes somewhat high, but he can also mix it up with ledge jump up B and ledge jump counter. However, Lucario has ways to avoid ledge. Notably, his up B mix-ups to stage or through shield can be a little bit tricky to deal with. Finding the right balance of punishing it while not getting reversaled is important. On shield it can be pretty punishable, but the ranges can be somewhat awkward. The earlier portions of his up B won't hit you or your shield, so if you shield you won't be able to punish him. At the percents opponents tend to live to against Belmont, Aura is a really real threat. Make sure to know how to work around Aura Sphere Charge, and Side B. Peach and Daisy are another meta-relevant character that Belmont has a decent matchup against, but people can forget just how busted of a character she is. Her damage output is really high, she has float cancel aerials, and did I mention she could float? I've put this matchup as winning in the past, but I don't think that gives Peach enough credit. As a personal aside, I used to have an optimal lame style that countered Peach pretty well, but it's hard for me to summon that anymore. The first most important step in this matchup, in my opinion, is always respecting Peach's burst options. They're strong burst options, but they can be whiff punished by our range. At the same time, you don't really want to let her pull turnip for free. A lot of Peach's moves can low profile. Some of the notable ones are landing fair and landing U-air. Having other punishments punishes available or not overextending are important in these cases. The range of her activated counter is pretty substantial, so be careful with mashing. They can often use float to go high and avoid ledge, which could be kind of annoying, but it's a bit risky for the Peach as well. Falling Holy Water can be really good against their recovery, but they can also poke up early through it to hit the bottle. There's a lot of good follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight. Her ledge roll is pretty decent. It's time for Min Min, everyone's favorite DLC Belmont number 2. First I'll start off with the nerfs. They nerfed her arm's shield pressure in the last patch, which gives us more time to play the run-up shield game, but the safety on shield is the same. There's more landing lag on her nair now, which affects some of her follow-ups. The nerf on laser duration probably helps a little bit too. The past up smash nerf was probably the most impactful. Since we talked about the arm's shield pressure, that makes you think about what neutral is with Min Min in the first place. It's important to remember and recognize the difference between the tilt arms and the smash arms. After a smash arm, she's stuck in place, but after a tilt arm, she can walk around, she can jump. It can be tempting to think you can just run up shield and forward air her, which can work against her smash arms. But with her tilt arms, she can walk and avoid the out of shield fare. This is much easier for her because she leans backwards when she walks back and she leans forwards when she walks forward. They'll often jump as well, so it becomes a mix-up game of what option you want to cover after you shield one of her arms. If you ever feel stuck on neutral versus Min Min, it can be helpful to understand the different counterplays involved with her arms that a normal character would use, like rolling, etc. It's very tempting to jump over and try to punish her in the air, which can be effective and high reward, but they can also call you out in the air really well. Both the regular arm and the Ram Ram will make jumping hard. Speaking of Ram Ram, let's talk about Belmont at ledge. Ledge against Min Min is definitely really tough. Roll is pretty easy for them to cover. Unfortunately, normal getup is also fairly easy to cover. Be careful normal getuping after the first arm because the second arm is often there to cover it. Min Min can hit Belmont at ledge, but only at certain ranges that depend on the arm. All of this really makes a person want to ledge jump, which a Min Min will often cover with Ram Ram. If you want to ledge jump, air dodge the Ram Ram, it often takes a slight delay before the air dodge. Then you're still in the air, which is not a great position. Let's talk a bit about Min Min disadvantage. A lot of her bad disadvantage state is similar to Belmont's. Bad tech roll, no really high startup move in the air. In one patch, her tether range got shadow buffed. After that, it became much more difficult to just nair her tether. It's still possible, but a much less strong strategy. Her edge guarding against Belmont is pretty decent. Let's talk about Min Min at ledge for a bit. For ledge weight, the only Holy Water follow-up is for Falling Holy Water timed before the invulnerability ends. It can be hard to set up ledge traps because she likes to throw one or both of her arms at you while recovering. If you can immediately cover ledge, they like to drop off and do one or both aerials as well. She has full DLC ledge roll invulnerability frame 1 to 30, and a few frames afterwards that like to low profile other options. Notably, it breaks a lot of slow cross axe Holy Water setups, because she can roll under the Holy Water. Sometimes she'll get tagged on the back of the bottle if you're too close, and then she'll get out of the fire like right away. The antidote is to stand back further, but that makes it harder to cover roll and pressure normal getup at the same time. Min Min's ledge jump is supposed to be a little bit more vulnerable, but that's only if they don't use another move afterwards like an aerial. This matchup is something of karma for Belmont, honestly. This is what it feels like for other characters to play against Belmont. The matchup is kind of fun, but the disadvantage is tough. Mii Brawler. Every day people are thinking Mii Brawler is more busted than the day before. I've heard everything described of this character from gimmick to being a better fox with CSS. The character is definitely getting more acknowledgement now. Their mobility is good and they have a couple different good movesets. They'll usually use shot put or flashing Mach punch. Suplex is pretty common. All the up Bs are really good and have their own uses, and the feint jump that's like flip kick is pretty common. The feint jump can be kind of tricky. You might want to lab it yourself and figure out where the different vulnerabilities are. Shot put can do a number to Belmont offstage. The soaring axe kick I found can be troublesome, but most of the clips these days are from thrust uppercut. They have kill confirms from D-throw into it. When you add that into their amazing tech chase ability, this could be a crazy character. Their nair is really safe, and their jumps are really fast and nimble. Belmont's range definitely helps. Moves like suplex can challenge it, so be aware. When they get to ledge, they have a tough time against Holy Water. They're strong confirms off of short hop and grounded Holy Water. Alright, Light Pit. You may be wondering why regular Pit is listed as a much worse matchup for Belmont than Dark Pit. It's because his arrows can be that much more effective. Only one Pit player that I've played has used the arrows to that much of the potential, but that was enough to know that they're absolutely broken. You basically shouldn't be making it back unless you dare one of the arrows. It takes a lot of skill to use the arrows like that, so you might not encounter it very often though. Speaking about Pit more generally, they have other ways to edgeguard you with long-lasting aerials. Neutral can be pretty even, give or take, but they have ways to set up into low percent edgeguards. Orbitars is their shield move. It got buffed so the end leg is harder to punish now, so it requires more thought than before. They can use it as a drop ledge mix-up or ledge jump mix-up, so things like Holy Water bottle timings need to be really on point. Their recovery is really vulnerable to falling Holy Water, but you have to get around their offstage arrows first. Shielding them can push you back, so make sure you take that into account if you're trying to space Holy Water. For Holy Water on ledge weight follow-ups, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. They have 3 jumps in the air, so they don't necessarily have to go to ledge though. Pokemon Trainer is one of the relevant matchups that Belmont is known to do alright in. It's largely because parts of the Ivysaur and Charizard matchups are good for Belmont. It's typically agreed that Belmont struggles the most against Squirtle. However, all 3 of them can have a tough time at disadvantage and struggle against Holy Water at ledge. In case anyone's forgotten, Pokemon Trainer is an absolutely busted character. All 3 have strong setups at different percents, or cheese if you want to call it that, so each Pokemon is a strong threat. Some trainers will stay on mostly Squirtle though because he does the best. Starting off with Squirtle, he's mostly used for his good neutral, small size, low percent 100% combos and some edge guarding. They make side B out of disadvantage onto stage a lot, so have a plan for that. Nair, Fair, and up air can be safe on shield. Squirtle, Fair, and Bear can punish F-tilt on shield at some ranges. The same for Squirtle, Bear if our Bear or Fair aren't landed super well. When Belmont's on ledge, Squirtle has a lot of nice reaction-based setups. They can also try to catch your ledge hang or ledge jump with D-tilt or D-smash. Squirtle has several nice ways to edge guard. Lingering moves to catch your tether, water gun to send you away. You can air dodge water gun though. Squirtle is light at least. If they do actually go low with Squirtle, you can interrupt their recovery with holy water. They will often switch at that point though. In many ways, Belmont does well against Ivysaur, because Belmont does well in mid-range and can exploit Ivysaur's disadvantage, but Ivysaur still has a lot going for them. Being above Ivysaur is absolutely awful, with up air and Vine Whip and all that. He can put up a fight mid-range with Razor Leaf. Ivy has kill confirms off of Razor Leaf and Grab, as well as up air, Dare, Fair, and probably a few others. At ledge versus Ivysaur, make sure not to normal get up into his F-smash, it's active enough to hit it. When ledge trapping Ivysaur, remember to keep in mind their ledge drop Vine Whip option. Falling Holy Water can actually catch his tether recovery better than most tethers. Charizard is actually a crazy character. You don't want to give this character an edge. You want to keep them out, keep them in disadvantage, and make them regret switching to Charizard. Lots of kill moves, 3 kill throws, and yet they're scariest to fight when you're at low percent, when they like to throw you off stage and edgeguard you early. All of their aerials are pretty threatening. You can catch their up B to ledge with Holy Water. They have 2 jumps and can stall or switch though. They'll often try to go high and side B over you, make sure to be aware of that so you can catch it on time. If you shield their side B, that's a massive punish. It's like -60 off stage and -70 on stage. F-smash and Holy Water are basic punishes here, but you can do even more if you wanted. It's Roy. Roy can be fun to play against, but his speed and his sword make him difficult to deal with. Belmont has the range advantage, but make sure to watch out for his sword in the air, approaching Nair, etc. He has several different safe aerials, but falling U-air is the one that he'll typically use for the frame safety. Roy has a lot of kill power and is great at ledge trapping and corner pressure. His edge guarding is pretty decent too, at least when Belmont is sent at bad angles. You can up B his jab on shield, but you can't up B his down tilt unless you parry it. If you get hit by Roy down tilt, make sure to mix up your tech options. They don't have to use all of side B, but if they use the 4th one, it's really negative on shield and you can get a Holy Water. The safety varies depending on the direction of side B used. Belmont has ways to edge guard Roy, but his up B can go further than it looks, especially from the side. Falling Holy Water is inconsistent on his recovery because Roy's will typically recover from the side. On ledge weight, there's good follow-ups for Falling Holy Water and Short Hop Holy Water, which helps a lot. Prime speed can be a bit overwhelming, but also fun to play against. Make sure to watch out for his near combo starters. Prime and Roy's jab setups are both very lethal. You can up B Prime's jab. Prime's detail is safe on shield unless it's a little bit stale, but then it's hard to react to. Prime is definitely edge guardable, but he does have some mix-ups. At some heights and spacings, you can intercept his up B with Holy Water, also with other projectiles and with Whip. Hitting them out of their up B when they don't have a jump can be worthwhile because they can often die. Just make sure not to stand too close to the ledge and get pulled into the up B. Sometimes if you get back to ledge before they do, they might do a sloppy up B and you can ledge jump and hit them out of it. On ledge weight, they're vulnerable to Falling Holy Water and Short Hop Holy Water, which is nice. Dedede is a matchup that some people think Belmont does even or well in. Belmont definitely has some nice things going for them with being able to play range against Dedede and Dedede's Banana. While Dedede is somewhat small, he's still relatively hittable, or at least a little bit. Some of his burstier approaches can get stuffed out by whip and projectiles. That said, Dedede has a lot of mix. His high full hop can be a bit difficult to deal with. He combos Belmont well and keeps him in disadvantage even without Banana. Dedede up smash and confirms into up smash can seal out a lot of stocks. Be aware of Dedede's ability to take early stocks at the edge of stage with confirms into Dare. Dedede can be a decent edge guarder against Belmont. Being at ledge versus Dedede can feel pretty bad, but remember all the mix-ups you have where you can grab a banana at ledge. It's important to learn good banana play, catching the banana, keeping the banana away from them, Z-drop aerials, etc. Dedede at ledge is where I feel this matchup is really lacking. He has a really good ledge hang. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups off of Falling Short Hop Holy Water timed before the invulnerability ends. It's kind of awkward to intercept his recovery with Holy Water. His drop-off barrel mix-ups can interfere with setting up ledge traps. He also has ledge drop, monkey flip, ledge jump, monkey flip, and ledge jump barrel. A few more things about neutral, he's fast and his back air is really safe. Monkey flip, command grab, and attack threaten Belmont in a range he likes to be comfortable. Although Meta Knight is small, a lot of the parts of the matchup won't feel great for the Meta Knight. Their range, while usable, lacks a bit against Belmont. They're fast on the ground, but not that fast in the air. Meta Knight has 5 jumps in the air, but they don't go very far, so he's a bit of a target in the air. As the Belmont, it can be tough to exploit this while respecting Dimensional Cape attack though. Dimensional Cape is very negative on shield, but they have mix-ups where they don't use Dimensional Cape attack and they just attack you afterwards. A lot of his grounded moves are either hard to react to or safe on shield. Meta Knight can mix up the number of F-tilts he does. But finger clinking the Belmont up B against these can put you in a really bad space against a really volatile character. Meta Knight is a character that can ladder you and edgeguard you really well. Be careful with the timing of tether railings because moves like side B stay out for a long time and can edgeguard you. If Meta Knight elects to go to ledge, there's good follow-ups off of Holy Water on ledge weight, both Short Hop and Falling Holy Water. I want to say Holy Water can catch his recoveries sometimes, but not others. Depends on the spacings and the 2 frames. Overall, this matchup is volatile in the Meta Knight's favor. Some highlights on the Falcon matchup. This character has a really great advantage state. There's always some Falcon combo into Mii waiting for you. They kill fairly early, especially compared to percents that Belmont often kills at. Falcon is really fast and his full hops are pretty high. This can make pinning him down a little bit difficult. His up B command grab weakens the shield option. He can edgeguard somewhat well with Mii and Nair. Belmont still has a lot of tools in this matchup with his range and his projectiles, so it doesn't feel that bad other than Falcon's early kill confirms and his edge guarding. Character is explosive though, and always going to be a bracket threat. Holy Water can intercept their recovery, but they can navigate around it. He only has Holy Water on ledge weight follow-ups for falling Holy Water. Time for Mega Man! I think a lot of the issues in this matchup come from how good his Fair and his Bear are, and that he's a really solid edge guarder. His Bear is good at punishing Belmont Fair and Bear that's not landed perfectly on shield. When it comes to pellets, they definitely send back cross. Common strategies against this are weaving around them with aerials, interrupting them with dash attack, or throwing reverse cross. For leaf shield mix-ups, it's good to know the general counterplay to them. I recommend looking that up. For Belmont specifically, sometimes you can up B between the leaves or parry up B. They can also use leaf shield for edge guarding. It can be pretty effective if they go off far with it, or if they catch each other. Mega Man can act out of his up B, so he doesn't need to go to ledge. They may still go to ledge though. They have ways around falling Holy Water, but it may leave them vulnerable to other attacks. If they do go to ledge, the follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Cloud Strife, this character is definitely Mako powered. He's fast, it doesn't feel like he has enough end lag on a lot of his moves, so even though Belmont technically outranges Cloud, it's hard to punish him directly. His range still competes with Belmont's, so Cloud's strategies like baiting with Limit can still be effective. Having Limit increases his mobility even further. He has aerials that can be spaced or framed safe on shield. Fair is especially safe. When it comes to near shield situations, Cloud has a lot of ways to cover a lot of options at the same time. Cloud Cross Slash and Up Smash are good for catching Belmont trying to jump out of situations. Cloud Up B is frame 7, so Belmonts are probably better off trying to space around it than trying to use frame safety for the Fair and Bear. A lot of Cloud buffs helped him be a better character than he once was. For instance, dash attack killing and improved ledge snap. Cloud has some ways to edgeguard Belmont, but most of the threat will come from ledge trapping and corner pressure. Make sure to know how to patiently fight out of the corner well. While falling Holy Water can catch his recovery, most Clouds will space it, so I wouldn't recommend it. Sometimes they'll do an impatient up B that goes above ledge. If you get back to ledge first before them, Ledge Jump Bear can take their stock sometimes in this situation. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. Make sure to know the mix-ups and punishes for Cross Slash and Limit Cross Slash. Limit Cross Slash has no timing mix-ups, so you can always parry or spot dodge the last hit. If you parry it, you can get a down smash or an up special. If you shield it, you're too far away to punish it. For regular Cross Slash, you can try to up B out of the middle, but he may hit you with a timing mix-up. If you shield the last hit, you can get an F tilt or a Fair Bear. Mr. Game & Watch. At one point, Belmont was considered a possible counterpick to Game & Watch, but not as much now that it's clear how good the character Game & Watch is. Belmont's range is really good in this matchup and can stuff out almost everything Game & Watch wants to do. Belmont Nair, Aerials, and Up B can hit the bomb and Game & Watch at the same time. That said, almost all the characters can get it on Belmont with the combination of run-up shield and bursty options, at least eventually anyways. Common ones to look out for are Nair, Bear, or Grab. Nair and Bear can be spaced. Nair and Grab lead into his large combo chains. If you take one of those combo chains and lose a mix-up in the air where he hits you off stage, then you're right in a situation where you can get edge guarded by Turtle or deal with Bacon ledge trap. Belmont isn't the worst at dealing with Bacon off stage. He's got mix-ups with Tether and up B timings. For Bacon ledge trap, sometimes you can normal get up and down tilt under the Bacon. There's lots of mix-ups there from both characters, I won't go into too much detail. For Game & Watch off stage, there's some ways to edge guard him. Sometimes Belmont can intercept his up B to ledge with Holy Water, but he can also space it to avoid the 2-frame. For Holy Water on ledge weight, he only has follow-ups off of falling Holy Water. One common difficulty in this matchup is that Game & Watch's dare low profile is F tilt, so make sure to know other punishes for it. D tilt, D smash, Holy Water, etc. Game & Watch's crouch also low profile is F tilt, which can help him out in neutral. Solid Snake, Belmont's Konami brethren. A lot of people think this is a volatile even matchup. I'm going to have to disagree. Snake is just a little bit too busted and has some nice exploits in this matchup. Snake can be a difficult matchup for any character. That doesn't mean he's a bad one, but it does mean there's a lot of counterplay that you gotta build up and learn. One nice thing that Belmont has is he can pressure Snake at range with his aerials without even having to worry about Snake holding grenade. From many other characters' perspectives, that would be pretty broken in the matchup. That said, Belmont should still learn all sorts of grenade counterplay, comboing off grenade, etc. For thrown grenades, unless they're about to explode, they don't interrupt your actions if they hit you, so you can run through them and attack through them. The prolonged long-range war is usually not good for the Belmont, so they'll typically opt to fight somewhere in range while respecting his dash attack. Good counterplay to dash attack is essential, but anyways, back to things that make this matchup bad for Belmont. I can't emphasize this enough, Snake does not have to go to ledge. They're basically trolling if they go to ledge. For almost any relevant interaction, Snake can just go high, and Belmont can't do anything about it on the way up. In some rare situations, if he doesn't jump and fades in too fast with the uppy, he might get caught with a Belmont Fair, but usually if that happens, it's because they were trolling you by throwing a grenade before they went high. Once Snake has gone high and starts his descent, there are some threats against Snake. If he does get hit by Belmont's thin up air, it can be a relatively early stock. His C4 is a bit of deterrence for that. The Belmont can increase their accuracy by reading Snake's B reverse mix-ups. Some of Snake's more ranged aerials like Bear can call out a Belmont that's trying to catch him on the way down or landing. Getting reversaled when he started off an advantage isn't that fun, so a lot of Belmonts will opt to use safer pressure to catch his landings instead. Often the best you can get is a situation where Snake ends up between you and the cross. Better outcomes included landing in projectiles, or successfully hitting him with other moves. Outside of the early successful Belmont traps, Snake has the advantage in kill power. Belmont does not get to avoid Snake ledge trapping or edge guarding. While almost every character can cover Belmont air dodge in from the blast zone, at least on read, that's especially true for Snake Nikita. So Belmont will often be using more linear jump tether recoveries, although there's more mix-ups if you have a bit more height. So upward angled DI mix-ups may be crucial in this matchup. If you get past Snake Nikita or other edge guarding, then you have to deal with Snake ledge trapping, which is particularly bad for Belmont. The variable tether reel-in timing mix-ups can at least make it hard for Snake to optimally time his up smash. Snake's basic up smash or double up smash setups work really well against Belmont, so I'm always surprised if I see Snake select for more grenade or Nikita traps. If the up smash is spaced well, Belmont doesn't have enough air drift after ledge jump to avoid it, or any aerials to contest it with. So if they want to ledge jump, they either have to take the hit or wait and jump through the up smash, or jump air dodge through the up smash. But that puts the Belmont in a really bad situation. Up smash has variable timing mix-ups based on how long it was charged, so keep that in mind if you want to jump through it. Sometimes if Belmont gets to ledge early, there's mix-ups where you can normal get up and detail Snake. At other timings, options like that and roll in can often be caught by a second Snake up smash that's further back. Often Snake up smash with just shield and down smash can be a really effective trap. Their down smash is 3 frames active, so it can be really reliable. It hits normal get up, roll in, and ledge hang, and it sends at an angle that's really bad for Belmont, bad enough that you can't even recover without good DI, and even with good DI, the recovery will be super linear. This is one of those cases where you might want to use the optimized normal get up into shield tilt so you get the right DI. The down smash is fast enough that they can react to normal get up and use a separate punish for roll. Anyways, their ledge trapping is really good against Belmont, and it's almost trolling to use their other ledge traps instead of up smash, except that they're all fairly good too. He has a crouch that can be a bit useful, but I don't think it's that much of a deal. Overall, Snake can be pretty good at conditioning shield, so make sure to watch out for his sticky attempts. His up tilt is obviously really good. Make sure to mix up options after Snake down throw. Snake doesn't need to go low, but if he does, Axe can take out Cypher sometimes. If Snake decides to troll and go to ledge, the only follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are for falling Holy Water. Cypher can delay Axe and give you more frame advantage on the ledge drop. All those disadvantages means you'll want to make the most of neutral and avoid overextending. Upwards angled DI and a little bit of mix and recovery can help a lot. Okay, Bowser Jr. This matchup might not be as bad as I'm listing it. A decent amount of Belmonts think it's even or slightly in Belmont favor. Overall, as I've watched different scenes, it does seem like a decent amount of Belmonts have a hard time against them. But the reason I'm listing it so badly is just because of how comically unfortunate his edge guarding is. He seems to be able to maneuver very easily and just go out and hit Belmont, and his aerials are fairly active. For all his strengths like his 70% combos, Bowser Jr. has a lot of weaknesses. It may be worth studying those on a more general level to have a better picture of the character. Belmont's range definitely helps him out in this matchup. Make sure to understand Clown Cart and neutral mix-ups, like what they do after they cancel out of it, whether it's there, etc. He had some buffs to Clown Cart armor at some point, but I forgot how much that changed things. If they use Clown Cart on the ground, Cross will hit Bowser Jr. because he sticks his head out, but if they start from the air and bounce, it usually won't work. The fire stops the cart, but the bottle won't, so be careful about downbanging too much. If you get put into a tech situation, be careful with tech out options, they like to cover them with cart. Understanding play around Mecha Koopa can be super helpful. The basic counterplay is shield and walk forward and pick it up. Once they're off stage, they may try to recover high, often with side B. Belmont has a lot of tools to stuff them out as they're coming back onto stage. If they go low and recover with up B, Belmont can sometimes edge guard them with falling Holy Water. Sometimes that puts them in a state where they can't recover at all, but other times they get their cart back. They can just up B around it though, and of course try to hit you. If they do go to ledge, the follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. It's a bit hard to tell with Inkling because they're less prevalent than they used to be. They're still combo monsters though, and they still have their low profile dash. The dash is really good for getting under Belmont's aerials and catching his landings. Pernair, up air, and bear are all really safe. Air is her main walling tool that Belmont will need to play around. Belmont has some nice things against Roller given his range. Inkling can be a pretty decent edge guarder from her ability to go out far. There was some buff to Inkling Roller end lag that might help her a little bit. But yeah, despite her drop in top level player usage, she's still probably a big threat against Belmont. She does have some issues at ledge though. Her up B to ledge is one of the better ones to intercept with Belmont falling Holy Water, and if she gets to ledge, the follow-ups off of Holy Water on ledge weight are all really good. With this in mind, they'll probably make some more high recoveries, so make sure to stuff those out. Sonic is a pretty good character, and a good character against Belmont. A lot of his aerial approaches threaten Belmont in his blind spots that are hard to cover. Some of Belmont's kit can make it difficult for Sonic to approach on the ground. For general anti-Sonic counterplay, there's a lot to learn. Things like the differences between the spin moves and the restrictions that he has out of them. A lot of people might not even know the differences between spin dash and spin charge. It can be difficult to remember it all, especially if you don't play Sonic at all. There's strategies to learn with iframes and clinking, and general homing attack counterplay. For Belmont specifically, you can up B his homing attack on shield if you know which direction he's facing. He always bounces off shield in the opposite direction that he's facing. Sometimes you can tell what direction that is by the position he hits your shield in, or you can look at what way he's facing when he hits your shield. He can reverse in the air before he starts the move. If you're watching closely, you can tell by the start of the spin. If you know ahead of time, you can get a punish like F-tilt on low charge. If it hits near the top of the shield on low charge, you can get a nair. Sonic is especially good at edgeguarding Belmont. Make sure to know how to work around spring, how to tech spring, and wall stages. His active aerials are a big threat. You can sometimes Phantom Footstool as fair if you have no good options left. When Sonic hits you with his conversions that carry you off stage, it can feel like checkmate, but sometimes there can be an option here or there. You can catch his recovery with Holy Water sometimes, but it depends how he recovers. There's follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight for falling Holy Water and short hop Holy Water. Bayonetta is a character that really makes Belmont think about the way they play the game. Short hop mash and projectile play patterns are countered very heavily by Bayonetta. Grounded play, shield, grab, F-tilt are all much more important in this matchup. Shield is important against your combo starters like ABK and Heal Slide. That said, you want to be careful about trying to punish ABK. In most cases, up B will whiff and there won't be any other punishes, so you'll want to focus on the mix-up situation afterwards, or try to disengage. When it comes to projectiles in the matchup, ideas can vary a bit. To some extent, you can bait with projectiles and distract from whip, but usually that means that to be safe, you'll have to shield and take a grab from Bayonetta during Witch Time. In one of the last patches, her Witch Time on projectiles was buffed, so using them is even more dangerous than it was before. The best SCI for Bayo combos is not getting hit by them in the first place. Recognizing those situations, looking through VODs are very important. That said, when you do get caught, there's a variety of strategies. Some Bayos have shared a few SDI guides, and those are really helpful. For a simple strategy, SDI down and away does a lot. The more specials Bayo does in the air, the more landing lag she has. Once you escape her true follow-ups, you still have to deal with her follow-up on true options. Bayos can react and read your SDI and your options afterwards. Basically, they're taking you for a ride, and there's lots of games along the way. Bayo's edge guarding can be really good. If you have to jump tether, her up B is really good at covering it right at that tether range. At other angles, she can call you out for being patient by meeting you out there and carrying you off stage. The counterplay to her strong guns is usually to down air first and jump tether. Sometimes they'll use that as conditioning to make you go low, or to go high to avoid it. Some stuff we have in Bayo is we can adjust our timing so that we can call out potential wish times. They can SDI and Bats Within out of the holy water. Sometimes you can call that out with another follow-up. Bats Within is the mechanic at the beginning of her air dodge that lets her escape frame 1. Keep that in mind for your combos and frame traps. Her F smash on shield is extremely negative, so you have your choice of punishes. Holy Water in her recovery can be a little bit weird. Sometimes she can poke and hit it before grabbing ledge. She has some follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight. Next up is Bird Bayo Falco. Just kidding, they have a lot in common though. A lot of his kit is really bad for Belmont. Most notably, his edge guarding is really good. Between laser and his active aerials, he can make it almost impossible for Belmont to get back. If Belmont does get through, the increased time of his up B can give you more time to set up a trap or call out his recovery directly. His high full hop and his ledge jump make it hard to call him out with whip, but then can also be a little bit awkward for Falco to land from. His mid-long range is decent. Laser and reflector whip give Belmont a puzzle to work through. Falco has some mid-range options, but that's definitely still where Belmont shines. If you shield one of his up tilts and up B too early, sometimes they'll do a clank with a second hit and he'll fall out. Falco's advantage is really good, so you want to avoid his combos and confirms whenever you can. Falco will launch you up to try to take your stock with either bear or U-air. DIing for the bear will kill you for the U-air, and DIing for the U-air will kill you for the bear. You can definitely exploit his recovery both with whip and projectiles. Sometimes he'll do jump reflector or reflector mix-ups to make it trickier to catch his recovery, or to help land on stage. If he goes low, Holy Water can catch his recovery pretty well. Once he's at ledge, he has all sorts of drop reflector mix-ups, which can make some of Belmont's ledge trapping difficult. Falling Holy Water can stop the ledge drop mix-ups, but not the ledge jump mix-ups. In any case, you'll want to look out for all the reflector and illusion mix-ups from ledge options. If you waste on ledge, the follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight are really good. Mario can be a pretty busted character, especially on stages like Battlefield and PS2, where the latter combos can actually kill. Those in his combos that end with bear spike off stage can make the matchup pretty volatile. His Nair, Bear, and U-air are really safe. He can use a lot of aerials per jump. In neutral, Mario can have a little bit of issue with Belmont's range, but he has enough tools to work around it. In addition to avoiding all his win conditions, there's one very important thing that Belmont needs to do in the matchup, and that is to shut down Mario's high recoveries. Many Marios would like to recover high with Jump Fireball. You can hit Mario or Mario in the Fireball at the same time with Whip. You can also do this with the projectiles like Axe, but it's risky, especially if they cape instead. In the place where they might Fireball, they may mix up with cape or air dodge instead, so there's some mix left to cover. If you can get them to go to ledge, it's really good for Belmont. There's great follow-ups of Holy Water on ledge weight. You can intercept his up B with Holy Water, but they can also like jump cape to ledge. Again, it's only relevant if you can shut down his high recoveries first. Edge guarding Mario can be somewhat decent because he's pretty bad without a double jump. Mario has ways to edge guard Belmont with Flood, with cape, with aerials, and has some good ways to ledge trap Belmont. His smash attacks like F smash and up smash can be really good. His cape reflector helps him out a decent bit. Be careful landing with aerials on his backside. If they're not landed super safely, he can bear or up smash. Same thing with Belmont F tilt if it's even a little bit stale. But yeah, Mario's just kind of busted. Next up is Sheik. Sheik has the potential to be Belmont's worst matchup, or close to worst anyway. Amazing speed and mobility, combo trains, great edge guarding, a projectile, a high full hop. Did I mention great edge guarding? I feel like a few practical things give her some difficulty in the matchup. She can sometimes seem to have a little bit of difficulty approaching horizontally through Belmont pressure. A lot of her aerials either don't beat Belmont projectiles or have a hard time hitting them. However, the rest of her strengths with her speed more than make up for it. Another thing that gives her a problem is that her up B to ledge is very exploitable by Holy Water. She has some mix-ups to work around it, but it's definitely pretty good. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. For most of Sheik combos, you want to get in the habit of DI out. That'll avoid a lot of tragic things happening. At one point, Pichu was almost certainly Belmont's worst matchup. Pichu got hit with a lot of nerfs. Among them Thunder Toe, self-damage, and hurt box size. Some of those self-damage increases were reduced in the recent patch. The hurt box size ones are pretty big in the matchup. You can almost always hit Pichu on the ground with F-tilt now, unless they're low profiling from an aerial. They can occasionally avoid it with crouching and moving it back, but it's much more likely to hit Pichu. These changes definitely helped a lot to a point now that a lot of people consider the matchup even, but I think this matchup is still way too explosive for that. Pichu has absolutely amazing mobility, a great combo game, and great edge guarding. If they go to ledge, they definitely have a hard time there, because the Holy Water on ledge weight follow-ups are really great, and it's easy to hit Pichu at ledge. With their up B to ledge, they have ways to get around falling Holy Water, but it can still be somewhat effective. Neutral areas are safe aerial, but they're often mixed up with their other multi-hit aerials. Pichu is really light, so getting hit by a stray aerial or axe can end Pichu's stock early. Once Pichu reaches a percent where most straight hits will kill, the Pichu can start T-jolting with reckless abandon, since there's no fear of self-damage anymore. Pichu's uppy doesn't have a hitbox, so it doesn't have the aggressive mix-ups that Pikachu does, but it does go a bit further. Given the quality and quantity of Rob players, any deep run through a major has a good chance of running into a Rob player. So if a combination of a player and their character doesn't have an answer for Rob, it can be one of the most invalidating matchups in the game. Belmont has some answers against Rob, and some Belmonts have decent results against Rob. I would still say the matchup is fairly unfavorable though. It's also very volatile and unforgiving. Some things that help in the matchup, you want to make sure your play against Laser and Gyro is always on par. Gotta respect them both in neutral. Be careful with them catching your dash or skid animations. If you do dash, make sure to be comfortable with dashing into shield. If you get hit by a Gyro, it can be tempting to think that you can act before a tech situation, since the hit stun is deceptively long, but on no DI it's a tech chase until around 130, and for DIN around 80. So usually if you're grounded when you get hit with Gyro, you're going to need to tech. If you have the Gyro, it's good to know what to do with it, so Z-drop aerials, throwing it upwards so he can't use it. If he has Gyro, you want to look out for his 0 to death combos, and avoid getting hit by the starters like his Nair. When Belmont is off stage, the edge guarding can be especially tough. They can shoot Laser and Gyro and they can side beat you, but more than anything, they can just fly off stage and fair you, and there's often nothing you can do about it. If they send Gyro at you, sometimes you can catch it during your recovery, or as you tether. For Gyro at ledge, be careful up being into it, it'll send at a terrible angle. During ledge jump, Belmont is one of the characters that can Z-catch the Gyro. This may help out in some of Rob's ledge traps. Gyro can hit ledge chain and also fall off and hit you, so you'll want to be very careful with dealing with Gyro at ledge. When in the corner against Rob, you want to be especially careful against his bear. They'll also use it as a mix-up in other situations. A lot of Belmont advantage against Rob can feel pretty nice. Although his hurtbox is a little odd, it at least overall is fairly sizable, so he gets comboed by projectiles and whipped pretty well. While it's not their only landing tool, a lot of Robs will opt to land with Nair. Having an answer to their landing Nair is very crucial in the matchup. Belmont has the option of outspacing the Nair, but it can be tricky to position in time before they land. Dash back and then using the option may be too late. It depends on positioning and when you react. Consider preemptive positioning and also walking instead of dashing back. F-tilt, holy water, and some other options can work for this. You can also try a parry detail or a parry jab if you want. It's also important just not to overextend against Nair if you don't have a good positioning. Rob can fly, so edge guarding him can be a bit tricky, but possible sometimes. When it comes to catching his recovery with Holy Water, they can stall around it really easily, and if they do get hit by it, it's often just a tag and they don't get fully stuck. Random aside, apparently Rob's surface is so smooth that if you throw a primed Holy Water bottle at him, the fire will just kind of like fall off sometimes. If Rob is off stage and you're trying to throw stuff at him or set up your ledge trap, remember that you'll often need to wait out both his Gyro and his Laser. At ledge, there's only follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight for falling Holy Water. Next up is everyone's favorite duo, Pyra Mythra. I know you all appreciate Aegis, right? Surely you do. Whatever anyone thinks about Aegis, I want to point out that this matchup is only this bad when it's played super optimally by the Aegis player. So if they understand how to be low committal and ambiguous in their baits and their movement, how to foresight the projectiles both in neutral and when they're being ledge trapped, as well as general mastery of their character and fundamentals. If someone can win with Pyra Mythra, they probably have a good chance of winning with their main. For a while, it seemed like Pyra Mythra was the new Lucina pocket, but better. For most players of the character, I'd say it's only slight loss or loss. Both Pyra and Mythra have important weaknesses in counterplay. Let's talk about Pyra first. Pyra feels a little bit like Ike with a projectile. Isn't her Blazing End cool, by the way? It's like a cross and Holy Water at the same time. Check out my Pyra Belmont video if you haven't seen it, by the way. Belmont will often be playing kind of mid-range against Pyra, like that's where he likes playing. Pyra has enough range to be somewhat comfortable there too. Be careful though, because right around that range is where Blazing End will catch mash. Good counterplay to Blazing End is pretty essential, because if it's not there, there's no real reason for them to not mash it. First off, you want to have a good idea of when Blazing End is likely to come out. One example is Pyra using it as a mix-up while landing. One of the best counterplays is to jump over Blazing End. The small ending lag nerf she got helps a little for punishing her with Fair Bear. If you're not able to punish her directly, you can play the quasi-advantage game afterwards. Playing well against the mix-up around her sword grab is important. If they get into the habit of doing jump Blazing End off stage or from ledge, you'll want to punish it sometimes. If Pyra recovers low, you can sometimes intercept her recovery with Holy Water. At ledge, she only has follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight for falling Holy Water. If you catch her with fire at ledge but don't follow up, her immediate up B can be troublesome to deal with. When Belmont is off stage versus Pyra, the Xenoblade Fair is definitely a large threat, and so is Flame Nova. If you normal get up from ledge, make sure to know how to fight patiently out of the corner. A lot of the greedy get out of corner options will get caught by Pyra Dare. Speaking of Pyra Dare, it's very important to be aware of that option at all times, especially when at the relevant combo kill percents. Pyra's pressure can condition shield, so be aware that she'll empty land grab sometimes. Her F smash is very powerful, so be careful with whiffed up Bs. Life can be hard in neutral and disadvantage against Mythra. She's a fast combo string monster, and she has foresight. Her vertical juggling and advantage state with UR are particularly good, to the point where Belmont will often need to retreat off stage. For Mythra edgeguarding, she doesn't have Shulk Fair, but sometimes her Fair is all she needs. She can also edgeguard with other moves and with up B. Her ledge trapping is also pretty good. Mythra's recovery is definitely exploitable. Getting the right punish for each of the variations of her mix-ups can be a little bit tough though. though. A lot of times Mythra will space and go above ledge with up B2, and threaten you with Chroma Dust in this space that's a little hard to hit. If you call it out though, they can be in a bad bind or lose their stock. For side B to ledge, you can catch it with F Smash, with projectiles, and some other options. For up B to ledge, sometimes you can catch it with Falling Holy Water. You can also nair it or some other things. For Holy Water on ledge weight, the only follow-ups are for Falling Holy Water. If the Holy Water hits and you don't follow up, immediate up B into Chroma Dust can be tricky to deal with. So spacing the Holy Water to either tag them or not hit them at ledge might be more effective in those cases. Other than U-Air, Mythra's aerials aren't frame safe on shield, but they can be spaced. Mythra Nair has a decent bit of mix depending on how it's used. It can be spaced, the fall timings can vary, and there's landing hitbox. Up B can cover a lot of options at the same time and kind of work as an anti-mash tool. However, one whiffed up B or up B on shield is a Pyra Switch F Smash. Wolf is really good in this matchup. A lot of people insist this matchup is even, maybe because Belmont advantages are right or neutral is okay, but Wolf is just too busted and Belmont's disadvantage is just too bad for that to be the case. Many good players' pocket wolves are going to be problems. Even relatively basic wolves are going to be a problem. Wolf is a threat even without all the fair combos, and even with average tech chasing. His low percent advantage game is really good. In neutral, he can switch in and out of blaster camping. 1% get higher, he can kind of camp the air and fish for bear. His airspeed and acceleration can let him do this. If a bear hits well, it kills early, and if it doesn't kill, it sends off into a bad place off stage, especially if the DI didn't get there in time. A decent amount of his moves can send at terrible angles. D-smash, F-tilt, F-smash a bit, and despite his somewhat limited recovery options, he's very good at edgeguarding Belmont. If the angle's kinda bad, Wolf can go out far and cover almost all Belmont's options with Nair. If you normal get up versus Wolf, it may be worth doing normal get up into shield tilt, which is like an option select for shield or DI. If the angle isn't that bad, Wolf has some options with laser and laser confirms. And of course Nair on tether. Nair can be fairly good at covering multiple tether options. It's harder to do for the Wolf with the tether as max range. If they miss with Nair, make sure to time the tether to avoid the up B. They have multiple ways to get Nair to catch tether swing under, and their ledge slip Nair is pretty decent. If they miss the edgeguard, they can be a bit exposed. You can either try to hit their recovery or just set up a ledge trap. In general, Wolf has mix between side B and up B on his recovery. Belmont can edgeguard both of them directly, but you kind of have to guess which one, and guessing wrong can be pretty fatal. There are definitely options though with Belmont aerials in Nair. The mix-up between his up B and his side B, when it feels like he can just nair my tether, is what inspired my work on the Holy Spiker setup. The thought was, they both have to go to ledge, if only I had something that could hit there. Turns out Falling Holy Water is pretty decent at it. Wolf still has ways to vary his recovery, but it feels a little bit better now. If Wolf gets to ledge, there's follow-ups or Holy Water on ledge weight for Falling Holy Water and Short Hop Holy Water. The Short Hop ledge Holy Water needs to be spaced really closely though. Wolf has some early kill confirms, and the threat of a Wolf stock increases when he's up a stock or it's your last stock, because then all the confirms into Flash become viable. A note on Flash more generally, its hitbox is perfect for calling out Belmonts that like to smash short hop, fair, and bear. A lot of Wolf combos or throws are DI dependent, so it's good to look those up. Nair is usually much better than Dare for landing aggressively versus Wolf up smash. Wolf's Nair landed low is safe on Belmont's shield. They can mess it up, but I wouldn't count on it. They can also just mix up their cross up with it. Wario is something of a natural enemy for Belmont. You can play pretty rush down with great combos, great vertical advantage pressure. The late U-tilt nerf was nice though. His high bike recovery is really hard to cover, especially with his jump off bike, and lets him avoid Belmont ledge traps when it's available. His edgeguarding is pretty good because he can edgeguard out far with fair, or closer with his long-lasting Dare or Nair. His ledge trapping can be pretty good when done well. His F-tilt will end at an angle that's good for edgeguarding. His other big strength is his extreme airspeed and acceleration. Because Belmont's up air is thin and his up B is very committal, the airspace kind of above sort of belongs to Wario. One of Wario's weaknesses is that he's a little bit stubby, so he can struggle a little bit against Belmont's range and zoning. It's worth trying to understand how to apply safe pressure and zone out Wario. His airspeed and maneuverability don't make this possible to do this fully, but it's still helpful. For his long shield mix-ups, he further has the mix-up of Bite. This weakens Belmont's shield option, and can make them more reliant on risky anti-airs. His fair out of shield can punish F-tilt so long as it's not tipper, or as long as F-tilt is stalled. I think he wins the base matchup without Waft. If he has to go low because he doesn't have access to Bite, you can catch his up B with Holy Water. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for Falling Holy Water. Greninja is a common problem matchup for Belmonts, although some Belmonts do experience success against Greninja here and there. He's fast and low on the ground and good at getting under Belmont's landings, with combo starters like D-tilt, dash attack, and grab. They can also zone or counter zone with Water Shuriken. One of Greninja's weaknesses is that his out of shield game isn't great. His standing grab out of shield has decent range though. His pivot grab has extreme range and helps him in his grounded game. Greninja's air game is pretty good too. Their rising full hop goes very high, can be hard to deal with. However, an upward angled Belmont full hop, fair, or bear will meet them right at the top. Greninjas will often use this full hop to set up for falling mix-ups. Some combination of Nair, Shuriken stall, and bear. Up B mix-ups can seem good against these, but as the Greninja gets better, the up B mix-ups don't work as well. Maybe better off using movement to avoid or outspace these situations. Rising Nair can be somewhat effective in this matchup, but if the Greninja is playing grounded, that's a large commitment. While Greninja has overledge mix-ups, they're not that strong in comparison to some characters, but you do have to be aware and position well to cover those mix-ups. If they up B the stage, you can catch it with Falling Holy Water, but they do have some mix-ups around it like stalling, etc. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for Falling Holy Water. Their ledge drop counter can do a number on Belmont's cross traps, so be careful inputting anything after the cross is out. That goes for reverse cross while you're recovering, try and cross on stage as well. Greninja's substitute does have weaknesses, so it can be a bit risky for them. It's very laggy if it doesn't substitute something, and sometimes after it activates, if you're able to shield it or if it doesn't hit you, you can punish it. You can get a primed bottle off the leftover substitute, but I wouldn't recommend thinking about it. At higher percent, substitute is such a threat that I wouldn't recommend using much projectiles at all. If you do use them, make sure to be ready to shield and not mash. Sometimes you can bait a substitute with reverse cross, but then catch it first. Substitute is also a threat from high up, so be careful using Nair and Dare at a disadvantage. Speaking of disadvantage for Belmont against Greninja is really awful. Greninja has strong advantage in general with as many combos and confirms. His up air is good at pressuring Belmont above him. His up air can also be used to drag down into tech chase, so make sure to remember that. They can cover most of Belmont's tech options anyways, but it's something. Off stage versus Greninja is very tough. They're fast, so they can cover a lot of your mix-ups just by going out and hitting you. Greninja's recovery is good enough that he can stall Belmont off stage for a long time. Depending on the situation, there can be some mix-ups left for Belmont, but it's definitely difficult. Palutena is a character in Ultimate that is not what she once was. A series of nerfs have actually made this matchup somewhat playable. There's a group of Palutenas and Belmonts that actually think this matchup might be even, and they have some grounds to stand on. Some Belmonts have had decent results against Palutena since even before all the nerfs. Dom is a notable Palu killer. Nozumbra is a big Palu even proponent with lots of wins over in Europe. Frosty managed wins against DeBuzz's Palutena. Other than a few players, this matchup hasn't really been taking place at the top level though. I think Palu is still broken enough that she wins pretty well. Let's walk through the nerfs a bit. In 7.0, the knockback on Nair was decreased, and the size of the last hitbox got smaller. The hitbox size decrease made it easier for Belmont to tether low, and harder for Palu to cover immediate Rillin and late Rillin in the same Nair. It's still one of the best at doing that though. If you get hit by the Nair off stage, it's less likely to kill you directly. Sometimes that leaves Belmont with mix-ups to get back to stage, but other times Palu can cover every option. They also nerfed D-Throw in 7.0. D-Throw was oppressive at a lot of percents before. There's still some percent ranges on DI out for D-Throw that will connect into Bear, even if Belmont air dodges. There's some pressure strings off stage where Bear isn't true, but if the Palu guesses right, the reward can be large. But anyways, back in that 7.0 patch, they buffed Deep Smash and Up Tilt, which made the Nair Up Tilt confirm more used by Palus. In 11.0, they decided she wasn't nerfed enough yet, so they added more lag to dash attack and more landing lag to fair, and reduced her standing grab range significantly. The standing grab range nerf was especially nice because it gave Belmont more room to work in mid-range where he can space a bit more freely. The fair nerf was also really nice because it makes it significantly harder for Palu to land on Belmont. It's still technically frame safe because it's -5 and so is Bear, but at least it's not -3 anymore. They can still mostly use their spaced fair game though. The dash attack nerf was a little bit nice. It makes it harder for her to pressure after a successful dash attack. Punishing her dash attack on shield is a bit more comfortable, but doesn't really change anything. Back to the matchup though. Alright, so it's a bit more complicated than this, but basically the only range that Belmont doesn't lose at is mid-range. If Belmont and Palu try to play the long-range war, the percent will typically go in Palu's favor. Up close, Palu outclasses Belmont with her mobility, frame data, and Nair. Belmont's Nair can do some of what Palu's Nair can, so it can be a little bit useful. If Palu lands into Belmont's shield with Nair, it can be an uppy. At mid-range, Belmont has some advantage with aerials and F-tilt. Palu is in general fast enough that she can kind of choose the range that she wants to play. If Belmont reads her retreat into auto reticle, however, he can position himself to get a fair out of shield. Recognizing those situations is key for the Belmont. Also important is trying to maintain that mid-range and taking space when it's available. Palutena's U-Air is an amazing tool for her. It's wide, active, and almost impossible for Belmont to challenge, which all adds up for a bad double jump fastball air dodge habit. Depending on the timings, occasionally you can fastball air dodge through her up air and actually punish her with a B, but more often there's not enough advantage for that. The timing is mostly in her hands for when she starts the U-Air. If she starts it early, she can get the punish. Palu has a lot of different ways to ledge shot. He advised her D-tilt can hit both roll and normal getup, or ledge weight and normal getup. Make sure you understand the basic explosive flame ledge trap so you don't get cheesed by Palu with counter picks. Be very careful of using Dare when you're launched high, whether it's on stage or off stage. On stage, it can often end up into a U-Air or a Bear. Off stage, it can often get intercepted by an explosive flame. Breaking your descent with an aerial into fastball can be a better way. Palu fair and Bear can be pretty effective at edge guarding in some situations. When Palu is in disadvantage, parts of it can feel tough for her. She's tall and gets comboed a bit. Even though she has a teleport, you want to make her feel like she has a hard time landing. You can do that with preemptive pressure in places she likes to land, like her teleport cancels, and preemptive positioning so you can cover as many teleport options as possible. Sometimes this is going to dilute your pressure on the easy places to land, like the corner. So overall, the teleport is still really good for them to have, but at least Belmont's range can make it scary for them to use. There's something about Palutena that she seems to get out of a lot of holy waters easier than other characters, like for stray bottle hits. For Palutena off stage, she has a teleport. On rare occasions, you can punish the startup with that teleport, but not usually. If they teleport from stage level and above and are within range, they can full invincible teleport to the ledge, and can't be two-framed. There's a position they'd like to do this that's horizontal to the stage. It's possible to do this from beneath as well, but it's more difficult. If they opt to stall low for ledge iframes, it's possible to intercept the recovery with holy water. However, most Palus will recover downwards and into the ledge, so you can't really follow up with Dare if you hit them with holy water. You can go for like a risky stage spike attempt instead. If the audio and visual teleport indicators were consistent, you could raw Dare her teleport, but they're not. The best you can often get is a Nair, and that's a bit risky to follow up with. So usually you just have to deal with ledge trapping Palutena. She has a very good ledging. For holy water on ledge weight, the only follow-ups are for falling holy water. If it's timed well before the invulnerability ends, you can hit Dare with this, but if she happens to be holding in, it'll miss. If you don't follow up, it gives her space to jump teleport out of the corner. This can mean it can be better to trap her without tagging her with holy water. Luckily, it's easy to space so that it doesn't hit her ledging. In those cases, they can drop explosive flame though, so be careful. Most Palus will favor normal getup or ledge jump. Ledge jump gives them access to teleport, and a lot of them like normal getup because she's good at finding out of the corner, or she used to be. It may or may not be a thing that Palus are good timing their normal get-ups after Holy Water, but be careful with unsafe axe traps that like to normal get up and then dash attack before it. Be careful overextending against them when they're in the corner. Back throw is still really good. Yoshi is a bit of a divisive character on how bad it is for Belmont or not. Before we talk about that, can we just admit that Yoshi and their player base are just so nice? I remember seeing some group picture of them from a major, and they all just looked like the nicest, happiest people in the world. And wasn't Super Mario World great? Anyways, back to Dino Destruction, this character definitely does a number on Belmont. Yoshi has the highest airspeed in the game and great air acceleration. Yoshi is floaty and can approach something in Belmont's blind spot. If you want to retreat and catch Yoshi's landings, you're often going to have to give up most of the whole stage. It's often more effective to go under them and punish them instead. If you hold shield against their approaches, sometimes you can up B them. It depends on how much mix they have. It's tempting to try to parry Nair to make it easier to up B, but they'll often try to mix up with a later time fair instead. Yoshi has mix-ups with command grab and reverse command grab, which weaken shield, so you want to be aware of them. You might even be able to bait those out and punish them. Yoshi's advantage state against Belmont is extremely good. He excels at vertical pressure strings, and Belmont is naturally weak to those. He can also send Belmont off stage really easily and edge guard him really well. In neutral, if the Yoshi is holding forward and pressing A, it's not too bad. You can use zoning strats to hit him out of the air, go under him, etc. All that kind of fails when he starts egg camping though. Typically Belmont is going to have to go in and do something about that. The other big problem in this matchup comes from Yoshi's double jump armor. It's knockback reduction based armor, so it lets him ledge jump through a lot of Belmont ledge traps until he gets to high percent. After that, the knockback is just reduced. This lets him tank straight through Holy Water. It's only on his rising double jump though. Often he'll just double egg onto stage. The eggs tend to come at terrible angles, and it can be difficult for Belmont to find a way to punish without getting hit by egg. If you're able to call him out somehow in this process, it can be worth it, because outside of a setup or other good read, Yoshi will often live to 200% before dying to a stray aerial or up B. Some Belmonts experience success versus Yoshi, so it can be done, but there's something about Yoshi that's more terrifying than the rest of the cast. Sometimes you can be playing against Shulk and be like, oh, this doesn't feel that bad, you know, my ranges are pretty similar, we're both hitting each other, the damage output is pretty decent, maybe this is even or Belmont has advantage. Don't let that fool you, this matchup is very bad. Speed art Shulk is especially a big problem once he gets one hit in. It's very easy for him to chain you off stage and then put you in a situation where you have very little chance of getting back to stage. His fairs off stage are a menace, and he can cover high recoveries with his up B. You're going to need to understand the mix-ups and be creative in your recoveries, but not too creative because they'll just go out and hit you. Shulk's corner pressure is really something else. If you don't know what you're doing, it can eat you alive, and it can still kind of eat you alive anyway. Shulk Nair is an amazing tool. It's great at calling out reversal options, it's great at calling out dashes, it's good at catching some jump options. Sometimes you can find gaps in the pressure here and there where you can detail or dash attack them, but you'll want to not rely on reversal options like that or reversal options like roll in. Surprisingly enough, walk and shield is pretty decent and can give you just enough room to make it more difficult for the Shulk player. If he's in Smash Art, his attacks do less shield stun, so that can be a little helpful. However, getting hit with the Smash Art move in the corner will often mean the end of your stock. Careful normal get being too much against Shulk in the corner. They have strong punishes on it if they have the read. It's good to know what all the arts do and all the extra effects that they have, so make sure to look that up. While it can be difficult for Belmont to kill in general anyway, Shulk's shield art definitely adds a lot to this. They can switch to shield and Holy Water, or out of Belmont's other confirms. Shield art was nerfed a little bit, so at higher percents you could actually still manage to kill him, but it's still really effective. In general, you can combo shield art Shulk, but I don't find Belmont's to be that effective. You can grab and pummel to stall it out, or try to interact very little or not overextend. Safe ranged pressure can be decent as well. You can pressure Shulk off stage a little, but it's not super good. For his up B to ledge, most Shulks will space, so you won't get too much out of falling Holy Water. Sometimes you can tag or catch him though. For Holy Water and ledge weight, there's some follow-ups for short hop and for falling short hop Holy Water. There's some issues ledge trapping Shulk. If you want to call out his ledge jump on reaction, you have to space away from his fair, or call out his drift backwards and risk the fair. His normal ledge jump goes a little bit high, but it's still hittable with short hop aerials. In speed art, it's lower and easier to hit. In jump art, you'll need a full hop fair or bear to have a chance at catching it. His normal get up and roll animations are hard to tell apart early on, so it could be better to use options that cover both at the same time. Due to that strangeness in the roll animation, his ledge invulnerability actually ends pretty close to the ledge, so there's some extra options you can use. The problem comes in with Shulk's up B to ledge. You can poke above ledge with it and has timing mix-ups with up B 1 and 2. This can allow him to disrupt the Holy Water bottle before it hits or send back cross, so setting up the traps that restrict jump for a long time can be difficult. One weakness he has in neutral is that his moves are generally high startup. Make sure to look out for speed art bear. If it hits, it can be near touch of death for Belmont. When he switches arts, he's invulnerable for a little while and can transition immediately into shield. Some Shulks may find ways to use this, and other Shulk tuck against you. I think Fox does the best of the species. This character is always getting downplayed, but Fox is an amazing character. Fox is known for being hype and going in, but another part of his playstyle is that it can be very passive and reactionary. If you're one of those people that hates Mythra, you should probably hate Fox too. But I'm sure everyone here has great mentalities and wouldn't fall prey to such thoughts. Fox can go in from the ground or in the air. In the air, they'll often use mix-ups like safe aerials, spacing, and empty land grab. They may also just space around in the air and try to bait out options. On the ground, they might try to break zone full rushdown style, or they may try to use their movement to bait things out of the Belmont and maneuver around his burst range. Belmont can't afford to be completely patient on the ground, because you never know when that combo starter is coming. If Fox lasers, Belmont has to do something about it, you can't just camp. On the extreme side, you can try to walk and parry every hit of Blaster, but that's typically not practical. What typically happens is that Belmont will take some percent and then advance into mid-range where you can pressure Fox. A lot of Fox combo strings are mix-ups, but the mix-ups are typically very in Fox's favor. Sometimes you can combo break out of his pressure, especially at lower percents with up B or Nair. Using too much up B in this matchup is definitely going to hurt though. Fox's U-air pressure is really good against Belmont. Belmont's tech rolls aren't good, so Fox eats him alive a decent bit in tech chases. His ledge trapping is really good, and he can even edge guard Belmont if he's pretty sure he'll get the hit. Belmont can reverse edge guard Fox with a Nair, a Dare, or another aerial, or just just use the extra time to set up a stronger ledge trap. Falling Holy Water can definitely catch Fox's up B, on reaction even. Depending on how it connects, you may or may not be able to get the dare afterwards. If he's higher up, you want to make sure to cover his other recovery mix-ups first, like Illusion and jump back onto stage. Once he gets to ledge, there's follow-ups for Holy Water on ledge weight for short hop Holy Water and falling Holy Water. It can be a bit inconsistent if timed during the invulnerability end, because he ends up a little bit lower in the fire. Make sure to look out for Fox's combo starters and confirm starters, especially when Nair up smash will kill. At least he's light. Zero Suit Samus. This is another character that got nerfed in 11.0. While most of the character is the same, these nerfs are pretty significant in my opinion. Nair got 2 more frames of landing lag, so the percent ranges for Nair flip kick are reduced. This is important because in those combo ranges, a single whiffed up B would cause a stock loss. She can still land her Nair safely, but it's harder now. Her frame 1 jab afterwards can still be used to clink with Belmont up B. She also still has Zero, which is plenty safe. Her up B has 2 more frames with startup now, so it's the same startup as Belmont. This affects some of the percent ranges of the combos into up B, not as severely as the Nair one though. In an earlier patch, her berry also got nerfed a little bit, so you can mash out until somewhat high percents. This is another one of those matchups that doesn't really feel that bad until it feels awful. With their broad percent ranges of kill confirms, it can feel like she's not playing the same game of Smash Ultimate that you are. So you might even build up percent faster than her, but she just needs that one opening to kill your stock. I'm not sure how much the nerfs limited her in this type of playstyle, but it could be pretty significant, so she might not be as bad as she used to be. Either way, you'll want to know the DI to make these confirms harder for her to hit. Her airspeed and acceleration are very good, and she's very nimble. This helps her a lot when doing things like spacing Zera or camping out Belmont. While she is light, her bear kills us significantly earlier than ours does to her. She can use her flip jump and her mobility to kind of circle camp Belmont. It feels like trying to swat a fly and really test your endurance. She can use her flip kick to avoid ledge setups, or even punish Belmont for ledge trapping too greedily. Not overextending versus her flip jump is one of the most important things in this matchup. At higher percents, if you can hit her out of her flip jump, she can often just die. If she does go to ledge, there's only follow-ups off of falling Holy Water. If you catch her up B with Holy Water, it can sometimes be hard for her to get back to ledge. The worst nerf that Belmont has received in Ultimate is Joker being added to the game. That and the shield pressure nerfs, but mostly Joker. That might be a bit of an exaggeration since characters like pre-patch Hollow are still around. Also, it takes a decent bit of time and skill to learn to play Joker well, so Belmonts can often still make do against a lot of Jokers or Joker counterpicks, especially since the matchup experience differential is often in the Belmont's favor, especially if the Belmont was around when everyone was playing Joker right after he came out. Sometimes it could be easy to think that this matchup isn't that bad, like if you're able to edgeguard his tether, if you're landing a lot of your whip hits in neutral, or if the Joker isn't exploiting their advantages in neutral and advantage to the best. One of the big problems is the hitting him part. His hurtbox is generally small and shifts around a lot, so hitting him with the small whip can feel like quantum probability. His body is like a Schrodinger's cat or something. Their Nair and Bear are technically safe on shield, but only barely. A lot of their neutral ends up being more movement and whiff punish based, as well as zoning with AHA, gun, and down gun. His more rushdown play is often getting a grab or getting a dash attack on a retreat. He and Link share the same better fastball multiplayer, so his empty land grab mix-ups are really good. His good early combo starters are from grab and from Nair. Nair because it leads into grab. His other aerials combo start too. His dash attack leads into tech chase. His dash attack is relatively fast at frame 6 and is an important tool in this matchup. It's one of his main whiff punish tools. His frame 8 dash grab is also pretty good. Joker's out of shield options can be a little bit lacking, so that gives you something to play around. Joker is an excellent edge guarder. His bear is only 31 total frames, so he can take multiple swipes at you when doing an edge guard. Some of his other aerials are good for edge guarding too. Down gun is definitely a threat even after the nerfs. Depending on the way they use it, a low tether can be good, or an early uppy. Be prepared to uppy again if they hit you. AHA, the side B in the regular Joker form, had a small end lag nerf, which does actually help a little bit. Make sure to be careful about Joker's fair 1 confirms at later percent. When it comes to punishing him for using Rebellion's Gauge, there's a bit of a timing mix-up for if he releases the attack after getting hit or continues to hold, but it could definitely be an opportunity for a good punish. Base Joker is really good, but with Arsene, he's definitely another beast. He hits really hard, generous hitboxes, and that nice counter. If it reflects a projectile first, you can hit him with a normal attack. His B moves can mix up his height after ledge jump, and also interfere with Belmont's ledge trapping. He and Sephiroth are the only DLC characters that don't have full DLC ledge roll invulnerability. Some notes about this matchup and projectiles: you'll want to weigh the balance of using them. A single axe off stage can fill Joker's Rebellion's Gauge most of the way. When it comes to Holy Water on the recoveries, it can definitely be a bit miss for both of them. Tether from the side goes over falling Holy Water, and tether low can usually stall it out. If you do catch their tether, sometimes you can take their stock. If they tether again too early or run out of tethers, you can often catch Arsene at B with falling Holy Water. However, it often just tags him so you can't convert. For Holy Water on ledge weight, there's only follow-ups for falling Holy Water. There may be some small inconsistency depending on the timing or spacing of the Holy Water. Last up is Pikachu. Even if you don't like this matchup, it's hard to be upset at Pikachu. It's Pikachu. It's hard to tell if this matchup is really that bad for Belmont. It hasn't been really played out at high top level very much. While Pikachu lacks some of the explosive mobility and power of Pichu, Pikachu can T-jolt without taking self-damage, and has a hitbox on quick attack. Not only do a lot of Pikachu aerials pancake, Pikachu can also crouch under F-tilt. Pikachu's general advantage state is really strong when mastered. You can try to SDI the low percent Pikachu loops. They can still follow up, but it's more difficult. There's some guides for how to DI or SDI them to make it hard for the Pikachu. It's important to recognize and capitalize on those situations when you do escape. For edgeguarding, Pikachu is really good. In many offstage situations, they can do close to a full checkmate on Belmont's recovery. Belmont's recovery mix-ups have improved significantly since 2019. Also, more SDI counterplay to things like bear chains is known. Pika has also evolved a lot and now has many broken combos. If Pikachu quick attacks to ledge, sometimes you can catch the recovery with falling Holy Water. It depends how they recover. There's follow-ups for Holy Water and Ledge Weight for Short Hop Holy Water and Falling Holy Water. A nice thing about Falling Holy Water is that it can restrict them from Ledge Drop Quick Attack. If they want to avoid Ledge, they can opt to Quick Attack over Ledge or through Belmont. This means Belmont will often have trouble setting up traps and have to use more shield. For Quick Attack 2 on shield, Belmont's range can let him pressure Pikachu out of shield. I'm not sure overall how good it is though. There's a lot of details in the matchup around T-Jolt play, Pikachu's multi-hits, and how to call Pikachu out in the air. Pikachu is fairly light, so when you do catch him in the corner with a straight aerial, left throw, or axe, it can be really rewarding. We've reached the end of Ultimate's roster. If you somehow watched through all of this, I hope you enjoyed or learned something. This character data will be available for reference outside of this matchup explanation. I find the Holy Water at Ledge Weight reference to be fairly helpful. Thanks for watching.